part of the realization of the goals and objectives of Project Discipline, the flagship project of the Supreme Student Government of Mabog National High School, this webinar aims to unite the student leaders for one goal, having one vision of continuously serving for the interests, welfare, and democratic rights of every student, to strengthen their abilities as student leaders, and to develop their character of positive thinking, and to become a good model to their fellow students.
According to Lakeisha Williams, a true leader never stops being a student, always learning, always improving. Today, we are virtually gathered here to empower youth leadership as we commence the first leadership webinar of the Supreme Student Government of Mabog National High School with the theme, Unleashing Leadership Potentials, Preparing Student Leaders for the Challenges of the 21st Century and the New Normal. To begin, everyone is requested to stand for the prayer and the national anthem.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of good health and peace that we have enjoyed for so many years. As we find ourselves in this time of crisis today, we ask for your divine intervention and mercy to be upon each of us. Come and guide the minds of those working to discover a treatment to the COVID-19 virus. Grant them wisdom, knowledge, and clarity of mind, so that all peoples will be free from the threat of this ailment. We also pray for the healthcare workers that are standing in the front line of this battle. Father, we thank you for their hearts of service, putting the needs of society before their own, generously responding to the cry of your people. We ask that you will grant them strength and protection as they give of themselves in selfless service. May you fill them with your Holy Spirit as they work to be your healing hands and feet. Father, we also surrender to you all those who have been afflicted with the virus. Grant them your healing grace, merciful Father, so that they may recover swiftly and continue to be witnesses of your love in their lives. Mother Mary, we ask for your intercession in this great time of need. Cover each of us with your blue mantle of protection, so that we may be preserved in good health, to continue to glorify your Son, Jesus Christ. We make this prayer through Christ our Savior and Redeemer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Sisikin sa nagatak tutok sa
It is a great honor to be able to be part of this event that will mold youths of today who will be the engines of our future. All of us here will be able to feast on knowledge that will healthy our minds, in actions and in wisdom. For that, may I call on Miss Mary Queen Ginge, the SSG President of Mabog National High School and the President of the Division Federated Supreme Student Government of Bislig City Division, for the welcome remarks.
To our excellent PNU1 leaders, our ever-supportive Public Schools District Supervisor, Sir Roland Ugmat, our dynamic school head, Sir Noel L. Milian, to our brilliant SSG advisor, Sir Levin Mart Lacuna, to my team Mabog SSG officers, my co-division Federated Supreme Student Government leaders, together with their teacher advisor, a pleasant day to all. It is my distinct honor and high privilege to welcome you all to the Supreme Student Government's first leadership webinar with the theme Unleashing Leadership Potentials, Preparing Student Leaders for the Challenges of the 21st Century and the New Normal. In one way or the other, we have all joined here with one goal and intention to go beyond our limits. Certainly, this webinar is about preparing and equipping us student leaders for the challenges we will face in our service and leadership. This online training is also about transcending limits brought to us by our speakers through our special endowed abilities and skills that can be helpful in oneself and especially among the student body in the long run. It is also about unleashing our potentials, knowledge, our perceptions, and awareness as a leader, especially in this time of predicament of COVID-19. This lecture, with a varied but timely and important themes, creates an avenue for the people in different schools in learning all about prepping up student leaders to create an effective leadership, where it can unleash, empower, and transform others despite the changes and challenges of the 21st century, and encourages us to be the one to lead the new normal. As you can see, there's a lot of limitations to be crossed, a lot of experiences to be made, and a lot of new things to learn. But I hope may this be a starting point for all of us to unleash our potentials, to expand our horizon, and to cross every challenges in the future of our service, my fellow student leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and once again, sulig best morning to one and
Thank you, Miss President. At this moment, to share more about this event, may I call on the SSG Vice President of Mabog National High School, Miss Charbel M. Riboyon, for the statement of purpose.
Sulig best morning, everyone. John Kennedy once said, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. A good leadership comes from a good learning. With this claim, this leadership training webinar comes in picture. This webinar is a stepping stone for the student leaders to be more equipped with the knowledge that could be used to serve and to govern their fellow students effectively and efficiently. This is also a great opportunity for them to unleash their leadership spirits, strengthen their abilities to lead, and become a prodigious leader who lead with pride and confidence as well as to inspire lives. Moreover, this webinar will guide them in order to enhance their knowledge and skills on the fundamentals of parliamentary rules and procedures in the conduct of meeting. This will further develop their skills in writing resolution and project proposal and events management, which are great tools for the implementation of policies and various activities. Finally, this webinar will help the student leaders to acclimate with the new normal brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, preserve their leadership spirit despite the pandemic, and continue serving the school community amidst the challenges. This is truly a great opportunity for us student leaders. Every word that come out from the mouth of our speakers count, and every statement from them can change and improve our life as leaders. So we should prepare our ears to listen and open our minds to learn and apply those learnings in order for us to give better service. Once again, sulig.
Now at this juncture, I know we are all excited to know our distinguished guest speakers. Are you all ready? Okay, let's start. Our first speaker is a graduate of Philippine Normal University Mindanao with a degree of Bachelor in Science with specialization in physics as magna cum laude and class valedictorian. Former president of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government. Former student regent of Philippine Normal University Board of Regents. DOST Junior Level Science Scholar, and awarded as the 2019 Top Outstanding Student of Caraga. Currently an Associate Instructor 1 at St. Francis Xavier College, teaching Physical Sciences and Professional Education courses, and a part-time specialization lecturer at Falcolan Twins Review Center. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Kerwin D. Membrado.
Greetings of peace and prosperity. A new chapter is being written about student leadership in these disruptive times of pandemic that will possibly overtake and overshadow the way we perceive student leadership to be. In a different time and in a different context, student leadership operated within known parameters. You know that you're a president, you're a vice president, all that you've been doing is this, that your roles and responsibilities are these and that. You also have your clear patterns and rhythms. You have your regular conduct of sessions, meetings, seminars, and all other student activities designated to promote student welfare and their interests. Also, the scope of student leadership before has set terms. No, you know for a fact that you will be elected in this specific term and a specific tenure of time. You also have your holidays. And more so, you also have the clear lines of accountability and the rules governing your student government. You have your constitution and bylaws, you have your rules preceding your meetings, and all the other necessary rules and regulations for you to operate as one student government. But one thing is for sure, COVID-19 has really changed all that. And unpredictably and uncertainty are now the watchwords of all those leading the respective schools. Most of you may be uncertain as to what will be happening in the new normal, what will be your mode of delivering your leadership to your fellow students. I would also mean those of you who were leading your supreme student government. Now, the question arises on our topic this day on student leadership in the new normal. Are you ready? I am Sir Kerwin, and this is our webinar on empowerment and student leadership in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. You see, now is a time to check your capacity for change. At what extent are we ready? Are we prepared for the new normal in the field of student leadership? Are you ready to lead differently to meet the demands of an indefinite future? We will find out your answer in this question, and I will all help you to prepare for it. Our discussion this afternoon, this day, will focus on how prepared are you in preparing, enhancing yourself, raising your impact, and illustrating your kind of student leadership in the new normal. So those are our 4 subtopics in this webinar. How prepared are you in the new normal? How will you enhance your growth and self-assessment? How will you also raise your impact as a student leader in the new normal? And finally, we will illustrate together the face of student leadership in the new normal. So the question is, are we all ready? Or shall I say, are you ready for this? I hope you will be. It is said that in order to survive and flourish in a new normal, leaders must be willing to change. Okay, the difference between normal and new normal stands in its own words, the word new. Because it is something new, the normal is something new, therefore, it should be understood that as student leaders or as people in the society, we must be what? Ready for change. We must be willing for change. And you must also be willing to change because the traditional approach to student leadership will no longer be relevant to the new normal. No, the meetings, the face-to-face meetings that you have, the activities that you conduct, that will no longer be relevant in the new normal. In this light, one commission from the UNESCO or the United Nations Economic and Sociocultural Organization actually proposes a roadmap for emerging from the crisis and preparing for the reopening of schools while guaranteeing their equal right of all to education. We have here three phases of the transition process. First, we have continue, second is reopen, and third is restructure. These are the three phases of the transition process. And to continue what you have started, first, what you're going to do is you have to plan. Okay? Prepare for alternative scenarios of different normalcy. You have to plan the face to face reopening of your operation in your student leadership. How will you prepare? How are you going to plan all of the activities, all of the tasks, and all of the challenges that awaits you in the new normal? What are your plans? What are your activities? What will be your proposed projects in the new normal? You have to plan for that. Okay? The next thing that you have also to do before you can actually reopen, okay, because we are here in the continue the phase 1 to continue. On the second phase is reopen, but you have to plan and support before you can actually reopen your student government. Okay? So, okay, so as what I was saying, you have to plan and support before you can reopen. Now, what is support all about? When you say support, okay, it focuses on ensuring continuity, creating governance mechanisms, monitoring, and effective support. So when we say support, this is support not only for teachers, not only for all the stakeholders of the school, but most importantly to you students and to your fellow students. You have to meet the needs of equipment. What do you need in order to continue operating your student government? Ano ang mga kailangan ninyo? Do you need connectivity? Do you need accessibility? Do you need the gadgets? Or what other resources do you need in order for you to actually reopen? And also, you must also have the support not only of your fellow students, but also the support of your parents. Okay? Because I know for sure that student leadership in the new normal will be really, really time consuming. It will really demand you more time and effort. Kasi noon, when we conduct meetings, okay, we have our first agenda, second agenda. For example, you meet for a certain event, no? For example, a fun run activity. You're going to meet with your fellow officers in one session, in one room, and then all of a sudden you will all agree to who will be the committee members of this and that, who will be in charge for certificates, will be in charge for the preparation, restoration, and all that. But now, since that we have the limited resources, that will really be a great challenge, not only to your advisor but also to you as student leaders. So what you're going to do now is to look for some support from parents, support from your stakeholders, support also from your fellow student leaders. And also, do not forget to also find someone to support or some agencies to support your fellow students so that you'll be able to conduct your activities and all other plans in a smooth manner. Okay? As I have said, before you can reopen, you have to plan and support. Now that you are able to open again, so let's just say na after a few weeks or after months of preparation before you can reopen your student government, you can now actually after reopening, you have to redesign. When we say redesign, you have to draw activities from the emergency experiment to improve student leadership. Okay, what am I referring to this redesign? When we say redesign, you have to transfer your activities to digital formats. Okay, kasi before when we actually conduct activities, trainings, and seminars to our school, we do it face to face. But now, since we have these health protocols that we have to follow, the minimum health protocols that we have to follow before we can actually conduct a face-to-face activity, um, this should not limit us or this should not limit you as student leaders na amidst all these challenges, dapat may magawa kayo. So what you are going to do is to redesign, no? To transfer your activities from face-to-face format to a digital format. Okay? What are the advantages of the digital format? When you use a digital format, you may actually cater a great number of people, more number of people, only if these people are also connected and also has access. Okay, so the digital formats will lessen the need for face-to-face activities. And even if the vaccine comes by March or earlier before March, it doesn't actually mean that we can really go back to where we were before. Okay? So parang love life lang, no? You can't really go back to where you were before. Kasi nga, this will be a new normal. This will be a new normal for us. Maybe it will be provided that face-to-face activities will be allowed, pero that should happen in a very gradual manner in order for us to what? To actually flatten the curve or actually have zero cases not only in your province, not only in your specific barangay, but also in the country in as a whole. Okay? You have to redesign, to draw activities from the emergency experiment. When I say emergency experiment, what are these activities that you think are relevant and timely to our time? Okay? So do not when you redesign your activities, make it to a point that it is relevant and catchy to your viewers and also to your constituents. Okay, after redesigning, you have to recover. When we say recover, you have to design measures to formatively evaluate and generate mechanisms to support disadvantaged students. So you have to think of possible ways that you as a student leader can do to support your fellow disadvantaged students. Because as student leaders, you are more aware of what you need for the moment. You are most aware of what you need for now. What do you need? Do you need a capability training such as this webinar for you to be equipped or to awaken your spirit or your drive to continue your journey as a student leader? Okay, so those are the things that you have to consider, no? And when I say recover, you also have to evaluate, no? Evaluate your design, your new design, or the product of redesigning all your activities. No, you have to evaluate that. Is this viable? Is this feasible? Is this activity effective or is it efficient? Because if it's not, it should also be a room. There should also be a room for improvement for you. Okay, so you should also learn from the mistakes that you have, no, the mistakes that you will be doing, the challenges that you will be facing in the new normal. Okay, the third phase, after redesigning and recovering your your student government, you have to restructure. When I say restructure, Okay, this will actually require investing on technologies, resources, and supports that are made available to all to actually improve the quality of your student leadership. You have to restructure. What you need now is access to different forms of technology. You also need access to resources, and more so, you need the support. You cannot do this alone. No, student government is not a one-man show. Okay, you cannot do this alone. Not even your president in your SSG can do this alone. He or she needs someone such as you, or someone not only from your organization, but also someone within the school and someone beyond the parameters of the school. Let's just say the LGU or other non-government agencies and even government agencies. You need their support. So what you're going to do now is to equip yourself, no, with the confidence and with the courage and determination that your organization can actually stand in the new normal, that your organization is not left behind, that your organization is actually working in the new normal. Okay, so now is also I have already tackled onto you how you can prepare for the new normal. Okay, now is the time for every student leader to actually commit to personal growth. Once you are prepared enough, okay, let's just say that you are all prepared for the new normal. You have all the skills, you have all the knowledge, and you have all the values that you need to survive or to thrive in a new normal. It is also a high time for you to actually commit to personal growth. Okay? You have to start by developing a keen self-awareness to establish your foundation for growth. Okay? It is being said that you cannot give what you do not have. So first and foremost, you have to strive harder to get that something that you want to give to others. Okay, you have to equip yourself with the skills, the knowledge, in order for you to actually serve your fellow student leaders. Okay, here are the 3 steps that will be a jump start for you to actually grow and assess yourself. In the growing of self, you also grow with the community of people. Okay, so it's being said that no man is an island. So no man, walang sino man ang nabubuhay para sa sarili lamang. So first, you have to do in order for you to grow and to assess yourself is to examine your assumptions. Okay? Ano ibig sabihin ng examine your assumptions? No, what are your assumptions about the nature of strong student leadership? Okay? Ano ang how do you picture out your student leadership in the new normal? Do they hold on to the present circumstances? What what was your methods before? And do you think that your methods before is relevant to the new normal? Actually, many of you think and act an autopilot much of the time. When I say autopilot, we actually tend to repeat our actions that have resulted in a successful outcomes in our past. Okay, so for example, okay, so in an activity, you have your fundraising activity, okay, to support, example, to support in the building of new classrooms. For example, you were able to tap the support of the LGU, the support of the parents teachers association, but now this will not be as effective. No, your letters and your visibility before may not be as effective to the needs of our time. What I'm trying to say is, um, you cannot repeat your action before just because it works before. It worked before. Okay? What you have to do now is to innovate. What are the things that you can actually do to result to successful outcomes, such as the outcomes that you have in the past? What are the things that you can do to actually achieve or kahit lamangan pa ang na-achieve nyo during the past? Perhaps this approach makes sense when our world is actually stable. All of those things, no? The activities, all the fundraising activities, and all the other projects and programs that you actually had before is actually makes sense before when the world is actually stable. Back when there was no COVID. Yet, stability is fleeting and at times almost non existent. Your well worn assumptions may let you down. So, you have to examine your assumptions. You have to know what you need, what are the challenges, what are your strengths, what are the opportunities that lies ahead of you. And first step for that, on step 1, you have to write down your assumptions about a leadership challenge that you faced. Okay? So what are the challenges that you face? Do you have the problem in accessing this webinar? Do you have the problem in participating with your fellow student leaders in certain activities? No, do you have the challenge in actually attending to meetings, to virtual meetings, to online meetings, or do you have problems with catching up with your fellow student leaders? So you have to write down all of these challenges that you are facing. Okay. The next thing you have to do is to invite others to challenge you. Okay. Now that you have challenges, okay, you will now delve on asking them to tell you what you might be missing, okay? Or what they could have been missing. Kung ano kaya ang kulang sa akin. You have to invite others to challenge you, to also tell you what is something wrong with you, okay? Because we learn with our mistakes, okay? And also, when I say invite others to challenge you, you also have to challenge others, okay? When someone is telling something wrong, something bad about you being a student leader, it doesn't necessarily mean that you also have to tell something bad about them. You may praise them and challenge them to actually move forward and improve on their strengths. Okay, as I said, invite others to challenge you. Next is to broaden your definition. Okay? Broaden, palawakin ang iyong definition sa mga bagay-bagay. For example, do you assume that strong leaders must hide their fears and vulnerabilities? Do you think that strong leaders are really great pretenders? They pretend that they're happy even if they're not. They pretend that they are not tired when they are really tired of all those stuff. What is your evidence for this belief? Okay, how can you say that this is true and this is a bluff? Perhaps your definition of strength implies that a leader must always have answer. Noon, we say that ang amo ang president is really good because he or she finds solutions to all the problems that we have in our supreme student government. But now, you need to try to look for a broader meaning for that. Is finding solutions to certain problems before a manifestation of strong leadership? Does it solely define a strong leader? Okay? If your definition of a student leader before, okay, noon when you say, how do you define a student leader? And then you say, sir, I believe that a student leader is someone who attends to face-to-face meetings, no? Someone who actually participates, no, in preparation of the activities, no? Then how are we going to define student leadership now? How do we define student leadership now? Is it defined by the number of face-to-face meetings that you have attended? Is it defined by the number of project proposals that you actually made into realization? Okay? You have to broaden your definition on that. Okay, because your definition of student leader before may not be the definition of student leader now. So what I'm trying to imply is you have to go with the change and you have to be willing to change. And finally, the last tip that I have for step one on examining your assumptions is to seek out or facilitate conversations with others who can bring fresh perspectives. Okay, so this webinar will actually give you fresh perspectives as to how you will lead your student government in the new normal. Kay, uh, back then you were able to I suppose I would suppose and I would assume that you were able to attend seminars and trainings on student leadership, but they are actually traditional perspectives and they will not give you a fresh perspective of things. Okay, so the new challenges going forward may actually require you to frame issues differently. All the challenges that we have, the pandemic that we are facing, and all the social issues that we have been facing will actually give you fresh perspectives, no? Ano kaya ang pwede nating gawin? Ano kaya ang pwede nating maiambag? Ano kaya ang pwede nating um, um, isagawa, ipalaganap? Ano kayang proyekto ang maganda? Okay? And seeking out conversations on this will really help you to grow, not only as a student but also as a person. Because as time goes by, life is a constant change. No, the only constant in this world is change, and so you also have to equip yourself with these changes. Okay? A traditional leader before is not as effective pag inilagay mo siya sa entablado ngayon. Okay? That he or she will not be an effective leader if we are going to put him or her in the same stage that we are. Okay? So what is the implication here? Someone must be willing to learn. Okay? And you also have to learn with these fresh perspectives. The second, okay, so before we proceed to the second step, the second step on finding your growth and your self-assessment, you also have to remember that in the new normal, there is collaboration rather than competition. Okay? You do not have to compete with your fellow student leaders. Do not compete with them kasi gusto mo lang na maging president next time. Okay? Do not compete with them because you want to show him or her or them that you are more capable than them. Do not compete with them just because you were aware of this and they were not aware about that. Okay? The value of ideas does not depend on a person's position or role. So this doesn't mean nga lahat na lang ng mga decision galing sa president, galing sa vice president, or all those positions that are higher than those of the others. Remember to not compete with them. Okay? Because in an organization, it doesn't matter what is your position or what is your role. What matters most is kung ano ang naiambag mo. Okay? Have the courage to acknowledge that better approaches will emerge from true collaboration with others. Collaborate with your fellow student leaders, and this will actually give you greater assumptions, better assumptions in your student leadership. All right? So, moving forward, the next step for growth and self-assessment is to commit to intentional learning. Okay? When we say commit to intentional learning, you have to explore both the value and the shortcomings of your knowledge. As I have said over and over again, that traditionals will not be as effective when we stage them to where we are now. Okay? Their expertise will actually enable them to address leadership challenges. Yet, because the world now is very complex, okay, it means that the efficacy and the effectivity of the knowledge that they have before is actually limited because the world is gradually changing from simple to complex. So therefore, a student leader must also update him or herself with all these expertise and all the necessary knowledge and skills. Okay? Create conditions for discoveries. No, kanina you have to explore both the value and the shortcomings of your knowledge. No, for example, um, does your expertise actually help you to be as effective an effective student leader in this new normal, or will this hinder you to become an effective student leader? Okay, you have to think on that and you have to explore. Okay, ano ang kulang sa'yo? What do you have to build on yourself? What do you have to learn? Okay, because learning is a lifelong process. Learning should not stop. Okay? The second thing is to create conditions for discoveries. Now, one way to learn is to study your own new and unique experiences. A lot of you who are actually attending to this webinar may have a lot of experiences, unique experiences, no? Lahat ng mga experiences ng inyong pagkabata, and inyong pagka-teenager. Okay, and you have to discover, no, to study all these experiences, and what do you think are you going to do to build on them? Okay, lahat ng mga na-experience mo, I know that you all are very adventurous as young leaders, and build upon all these adventures. Use them as an avenue for you to actually explore and actually give the service that you want to your fellow student leaders. Okay, now um, I said earlier that you have to build on your experiences. So day by day, may mga experiences tayo. Lahat tayo, bawat araw, may kanya-kanya mga experiences, kanya-kanyang kwento, kanya-kanya mga pinagdaanan bago pumasok sa bahay ni kuya. Parang ganon, di ba? Pero, today, I would also want to give you four things that you really have to ask yourself every day. Okay? Ano kaya ang mga bagay-bagay na kailangan mong itanong sa iyong sarili? Kasi nga, sabi ko kanina, you have to create conditions for discoveries. No? That you must become intentional self-observers. That you have to intentionally observe yourself. That you have to intentionally commit to learning. Kasi nga, if this is not your intention, you will not learn. Okay? If it is not your intention to actually be the president of your SSG or your SG, you will not learn. Okay? Intentional learning is best. That intentional learning will actually give you the kind of leadership that everyone envisions because you are willing and intentionally willing to learn. And that is good. And that should be the perspective of student leaders, no? I would have to suggest that you take a few minutes at the end of every day to write down 4 things. First thing that you have to ask yourself is, what did you expect to happen during the day? So today, in this webinar, what do you expect to happen? Second, what actually happened during the day? Okay, that's self-explanatory. The third thing that you have to ask yourself is, what are the gap between what you expected and what actually happened? And finally, you have to ask yourself, what can you learn from these experience, from this difference? The difference between what you expect and what really happened. The difference between expectation versus reality. And once you find out that there is really a difference between what you expected and what is real, you will then realize, ah, ito, may kulang. Okay? Ano kaya ang pwede kong gawin para punan ang gap? To fill in the gap, to fill in the blanks. Okay? Perhaps the outcome will really be terrible, pwedeng maging terrible, or maybe it will be surprisingly good. For example, you expect that today you will meet your crush. What happened was your crush actually courted you. Oh, so what could be the gap between what you expect and what happened? So maybe it will really surprise you. Kay you will expect, "Ay, crush ko 'yon." Pero parang gipanguyaban man ko niya. So that will really give you a good surprise, or probably it will give you a terrible result. Example, you expected that you will win in today's election as a president, but what actually happened is you lost the game. So that would be really terrible for you. Pero despite all the terrible things that happened, you have to learn from them. Learn from this difference. Bakit kaya ako natalo? Bakit kaya hindi nag-succeed ang aming online concert? Bakit kaya hindi nag-succeed ang aming online paraffol, online fundraising activities? Bakit kaya? Or you also have, for example, for positive results, bakit kaya naging matagumpay ang webinar? Bakit kaya naging matagumpay ang ating mga meetings? Okay? You have to also learn from them. Kasi all these positive results will really yield more positive expectations. Okay? The more you perform, the more that will be expected from you, no? Pag nakita nila na, ay, magaling ang ating SSG, so why don't we give them this task? Okay? And you have to be thankful for that because that's an opportunity for you to actually learn. Again, these are 4 things that you have to ask yourself every day. What did you expect? What actually happened? What are the gaps between what you expected and what happened? And 4th, what can you learn from these difference? Okay? Um, by actually capturing the answers to all these 4 questions every day, you will really begin to see patterns that can lead to learning and growth. Lahat ng yon, lahat ng mga na-learn mo between the differences of what you expect and what happened will really give you an avenue to learn and to grow, not only as a student leader, but also as a person. Now, let us continue the steps for growth and self-assessment. The third and final step is to lift your purpose. Lift your purpose. Okay? When I say lift your purpose, okay, ideally, a specific purpose already guides your student government. May rason kung bakit ka andyan. There is a purpose why there is an organization called SSG. There is a purpose for that. Keep it top of mind going forward. Okay? Because there is a purpose, you have to think always to move forward with your purpose, to move forward with your direction, and clarify your value as a student leader. You cannot move forward in this direction if you cannot really clarify your purpose and your role as a student leader. So ngayon pa lang, you have to build on that. You have to ask yourself, para kanino nga ba talaga ako bumabangon? Yan ang tanong ng Nescafe, di ba? So you really have to ask on that. Ask yourself about that. When you happen to attend meetings and when you happen to be committed to as a head to as to a task that is given to you have to ask yourself, ano kaya ang ginagawa ko dito? Ano kaya ang role ko dito? Ano kaya ang maiaambag ko dito? What could have been my value for this task? You have to ask yourself on that. Because once you are there should no there should be no place for turning back. It's like going into a boat, no? When you ride a boat, the moment you are in the boat, you can't get out without being wet. Unless, of course, if you have that extra power to fly or to escape the boat without getting wet. Okay? So there is no turning back. Once you are there, live for your purpose. What is your purpose? Ask yourself on that. People with clear purpose are coming out of this crisis in better shape than others. Okay? So, when you find your purpose, nakita mo ano ang purpose mo, bakit ka uma-attend ng webinar na to, nakita mo ang purpose mo, bakit ka naging elected as an officer, then you will find out that you are in better shape than others because you were able to find out who you are, what you are, and para kanino ka, kung ano ka. Okay? Your purpose will really guide your internal communications and will enable you to respond to the new needs and conditions. Okay? So where do these magic comes? It is from the overlapping personal purpose with your student leadership purpose. What is your personal purpose? Why you joined SSG? What is your personal purpose? Ikaw lang ang makakasagot ng tanong ko. What is your personal purpose? And another, what is your student leadership purpose? You know, when I was a student leader back then, my personal purpose, why I joined the organization was I wanted my parents to be even more proud about me. That's my personal purpose. That really is my purpose because I grew up to be an achiever. I grew up always on top of the class, no? So I want to give my family something new. I want to show to my parents that I can also excel into leading others. That I'm not only good in solving problems, equations, and all those academic stuff, but also I can enable change. And that I have a role not only in my school, but also in my community. That is my purpose, my personal purpose, and my student leadership purpose. Again, you have to connect your purpose. Connect all the purpose that you have and lift them up. Keep it on top to keep moving forward. Okay? Continue the momentum and never stop rolling. Never stop learning. Okay? Now, I have actually tackled to you on how you can better prepare yourself in the new normal and also to enhance your self growth and assessment. This time, you have let's just say you are prepared enough, you have prepared yourself, and you have enhanced yourself. Now will be the high time for you to raise your impact in the new normal. When I say impact, you have to ask yourself, how can you figuratively and personally be relevant to the needs of our time? How can you be relevant to the needs of your school, the needs of your fellow students? How can you personally be relevant amidst the COVID-19 pandemic? How can you be relevant in the new normal? And that is how you raise your impact. I'll give you one example. Shown in this slide is Project Panglao, or the technology assistance in the new normal through gadget for learning and work. This is actually PNU's response to the challenges in the shift to distance education. Kasi nga, wala nang face-to-face at naging online ang learning. It aims to aid students who are deprived of electronic devices that they can use in distance learning through what? A call for donations of old but usable electronic gadgets, and these will not be limited to laptops and tablets. So if you can see here, these are the five campuses of PNU system. And if you can actually observe, among all these campuses, PNU Mindanao garnered the highest amount at hand, amounting to about 185,000 pesos. What could have been the reason for this? This is because their student leaders raised their impact in the new normal. They were able to figuratively and personally understand their relevance, their role, their function in the new normal. That what if we gather into one concert and then ask stakeholders, the alumni, all the community, all the stakeholders of the school to actually give pledges to donate something for our fellow students. And that is really a good example of how you raise your impact in the new normal. Okay? That is how you raise impact. And talking about that, I would also show to you some of the activities that is being spearheaded by PNU Mindanao Student Government with the leadership of Honorable Alexis Q. Cibote, who happens to be the student regent. I know that you will be meeting him or you have already met him in one of your sessions in this webinar series. Okay, so you can actually spearhead online activities to improve your visibility and connect visibility and transparency as student leaders in a digital platform. So we have there a lot of activities that is being spearheaded by the student government of PNU Mindanao. You can actually see this in their Facebook page. Okay, so what is my challenge now for you? You are high school students, I suppose. No, so at least once a month, online activity or online platforms, online announcements, online celebrations is already enough. So you have to plan on that, no? You have to plan your calendar of activities and again, redesign. Remember to redesign. Okay, when you plan, you have to redesign and restructure your activities, projects, and programs in order for you to what? To raise your impact in the new normal. Okay, now we have talked about preparing for the new normal, enhancing your growth and self-assessment, raising your impact in the new normal. And now, let us now unleash the face of student leadership in the new normal. Ano kaya ang mukha? Kung hindi nyo pa nakikita, base sa mga sinabi ko kanina, ano kaya ang mukha ng student leadership in the new normal? First thing is, we will be or you will be reliant on guidance about COVID-19 responses, processes, procedures, and protocols from above. Okay, so for student leaders working on these demanding and chaotic circumstances, the pressure is relentless. The options are actually limited. Okay, the sleepless nights will be more frequent only if you're doing your job. Okay, you will actually face a lot of sleepless nights. You will have to pick on limited options, and a, a, a lot of pressure will be given onto you. The regular meetings, the corridor chats, the chats that you have after your meetings, or the chats, the conversations, the face-to-face conversations that you actually conduct or actually engage with your fellow officers, with your fellow colleagues. Okay, that made up the school days. All the chit chats in one classroom have gone. All of them have gone. No, all those face-to-face transactions, all those face-to-face communications have actually gradually gone by. All those informal, important moments where social relationships are built and leadership is enacted simply vanished overnight. During March 2020, all of them has actually vanished. And since that time, we actually miss we actually miss all those interactions that we have with your fellow classmates. No, even me as a teacher, I miss my students. No, when we laugh in one classroom, when we learn as one, when we learn together, and those are the things that we miss. Parents, the students, and the teachers now exist in a twilight education world. Either we await the return of normal service, or we just hope for new normal that might offer stability, continuity, and reassurance for all of us. A reassurance that sana in this new normal, we will be more cautious with our actions, with the things that we are doing. Okay? The reality is neither likely to occur any soon. Okay? In a time of crisis, no, leaders are now reliant on guidance about COVID-19 responses. All of our activities, projects, and programs should be anchored on the processes, procedures, and protocols from the government. Is it following the minimum health standards, or is it violating the law? Okay, we are reliant, so that should be our main consideration. Are we are we abiding by the rules? Okay, the next, most school leadership preparation and training programs prior to COVID-19 are likely to be out of step with the challenges facing school leaders today. This is true. No, we did not talk about all these, no, sa inyong mga seminars before, sa inyong mga trainings. We rarely talk about kanang mga unpredicted events. Okay, we were talking about how to enable yourself, to empower yourself in face-to-face delivery of student leadership. Pero you see, in a blink of an eye, everything actually changed. And all those preparation and training programs that you have actually attended before COVID is really out of context now. Okay? It may be necessary, it may be relevant, but not too relevant and not too timely to what we are facing now. Next, self-care and consideration must be the main priority and prime concern for all school leaders. No, that should be our main priority. That is something that we have to consider first. No, the health and safety of our constituents and our colleagues. That is why we also have to invest on crisis and change management, no? Because these are actually essential skills for student leaders. How we actually deal with crisis and how we manage all the changes that is being brought up. Okay? That should be our main consideration. Aside from health, aside from safety, we have to consider, how we manage stress, how we manage the change, and how we also manage all these crises. The phrase connect to learn to connect describes the daily reality of students and teachers trying to work together in this pandemic. Okay? Connect to learn to connect. So you have to connect with your fellow officers or your advisor, and you have to learn to connect with them. Okay? Connect Okay? Para matuto para ano bang Tagalog na Filipino ng connect. Basta learn to connect. Okay? So connect to learn and learn to connect. Okay? So that is really the reality now that most of us may be really challenged on how to connect with people because ito na lang kasi ang only way that we can learn, that we have to connect with them. Okay, so um, that is one good phrase from Harris and Jones in 2000, their 2012 book, no? That we have to connect to learn and learn to connect. Communities are a key resource for school leaders as they host a wealth of additional expertise, knowledge, and local capacity. So as I have said earlier, no, you cannot stand alone as a student government. You need the help of the community. You need the help of the local government unit. You need the help of other people outside your organization to really give you resources that you need. Okay, so next up is distributed leadership has become the default leadership response in this current crisis. Okay, when I say distributed leadership, it's not centralized. Okay, so maybe your president may delegate a task for you. No, it will be distributed para uh, in order to cater and to manage the time. Kasi nga, kung before, kaya ng isang tao gumawa ng certificates, mag-restore, mag-prepare, and all. Pero ngayon, provided that we have limited access to everything, no, really have to distribute all the tasks and all the committees. No, we have to distribute them, and you as well as members should be really willing to help. No, kay as I have said, you have to collaborate. You have to connect with your fellow students, no? In response to this current crisis. Okay, so at all levels, you have to share, you have to learn, and you have to connect. Okay, you have to connect with with if not all, most of your fellow student leaders. All right, our world is always changing. As I have said earlier, life is a constant change. However, the pandemic crisis has actually escalated, no? It escalated the ongoing changes and created some new ones. And to lead successfully in this evolving landscape, you as student leaders must grow and change as well. Ito ang paulit-ulit kong sinasabi kanina pa. Okay? That you must be willing to grow and change. Now is the time to prepare for a new future. You have to assess, no? Assess your assumptions, as I have said earlier, to broaden your perspectives, to learn from new things, to commit to intentional learning, to grow. Because this will really help you in answering the question that I have asked you earlier. The question was, are you ready to embrace a new kind of leadership? In such disruptive times and during these times of pandemic, no, we are really uncertain about all the things. You as student leaders cannot emulate the leadership practices that you really witnessed and enjoyed before. Okay? You cannot really emulate all of this. You cannot repeat this, what you did last year to what you will be doing this year. Okay? You cannot repeat it. What you have to do is to innovate. You have to rethink, recalibrate, restructure. Leading in these disruptive times means being able to navigate in a different way. Okay? You really have to refresh, no? Sa computer may refresh. Dapat sa atin ding mode of giving our leadership, there should also be a refresh. Okay? To create new pathways amidst all these disruptions. Earlier, I have asked you, What would be our new definition of a student leader? For me, I believe that student leaders on this journey are defined by determination, their hope, and their unshakable belief that whatever happens, whatever would be the cost, and whatever would be the scale of challenges, they will continue to do everything in their power to safeguard the rights, the interests, and the welfare of all young people. That is my definition of a new normal student leader. That is my definition. You must be willing, you must be determined. You have to have that hope within yourself, hope with your fellow student leaders, hope within your organization. And you have that unshakable belief that whatever will happen, whatever may be the cost, and whatever will be the challenges that may come along the way, you can do it because you are enough, that you are capable, and that you are aware of yourself. Stand up, be ready. We are waiting for you to spark the change. Daghang salamat kaninyong tanan, and may God bless us all.
Thank you, Sir Kerwin, for that very inspirational talk that we will surely be upholding as leaders at this time of crisis. Now, I know we are still eager for more, and we will be having more. Now, our second speaker is the president of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government, the chair of PNU National Union of Student Governments, the student regent of PNU Board of Regents, the founder of Project Triculture, an environmental education campaign, a national finalist of Youth Envy Icon of the Department of Environment Natural Resources, an alumnus and project grand winner of 2018 Sea and Earth Advocates Camp initiated by Save Philippine Seas Incorporated and U.S. Embassy in the Philippines, and currently taking up Bachelor in Filipino Education. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Honorable Alexis Q. Sibote.
Good day, everyone. Maayong adlaw. I am Alexis Q. Sibote, the President of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government and the Student Regent of Philippine Normal University System. For today, I'm glad to be with you and to share the topic related to student government and community engagement. Allow me to share my screen, please. Today, we will be discussing Young Leaders in Action, Community Organizing and Management 101. And I hope that you'll learn something from this talk. To start, let us define first what is community organizing. When we say community organizing, it is a process where people who lived in proximity to each other come together into an organization that acts in their shared self-interest. It is both a tactic to address specific problems and issues and a longer-term engagement and empowerment strategies. Also, longer-term objectives of community organizing are to develop the internal capabilities and to increase the decision-making power and influence of the underrepresented groups. In simple terms, community organizing is actually group of people in the same community. Let's say, for example, your purok, your barangay, or your municipality group of people, your mothers, the women's group, the youth sector, the transport group, they're working towards a certain project or activity in order to solve a problem. Let's say, for example, the lack of livelihood projects. So your parents, especially your mothers, are working with fellow mothers, the women's group, in order to come up with a livelihood project. They have communal garden, or let's say, for example, your Sangguniang Kabataan officers is working on sports and recreational activities. Also, outreach program to your fellow youth. So that is an example of community organizing. It is a tactic to address specific problems and issues in your community. So let us know some of the examples of community organizing and community projects. So examples are fundraising or benefit activities for victims of typhoon, especially last year, 2020, Philippines was severely affected by typhoons. So there are a lot of donation drives and benefit activities for the benefit of victims of the typhoon. So that is an example of community organizing because people who organize the fundraising raising and activity and benefit activities are actually the youth and other sectors living within each other in order to help certain people also. We also have literacy outreach program or out of school children. So that is also an example. Coastal cleanup and development of communal garden, that is very common. And partnership on skills training and personality development is an example of community projects. So community organizing is about working together, you as a youth or the women's group or different sectors in a community working together in order to solve a certain problem or issue in the community. So they come up with a project. So now let's ask ourselves, what is the connection or um, what is the relevance of community projects or engagement to student leadership? Well, student leadership and community engagement empowers and enables students, especially student leaders, to be agents of change by developing foundational leadership capacities, fostering social responsibility, and providing opportunities for meaningful application and practice. Community engagement experience help refine the character of the students, affording them opportunities to develop leadership skills and values that would see them adjust well in the 21st century way of life. As we all know, the school is the miniature of the society or the community. Ang laban sa loob ng paaralan ay hindi nalalayo sa laban sa ating komunidad. So, we have as early as now we have to engage in our community in order for us to help those people in need and of course for us to develop our leadership skills. So this is very common sa mga student organizations that they conduct outreach program or extension services. So that is the relevance. Related sila kasi as early as now you'll be able to help your fellow people. Also, you got to develop your leadership skills and practice what you've learned inside the school. So at this time, I will be discussing with you the steps on planning and managing a community project. So paano ba ginagawa ang mga fundraising events? Paano ba ginagawa ang coastal cleanup, ang communal garden, o ang mga sports and recreational activities? Paano ba ginagawa ang extension services? So we will be tackling this one. The first step is strategically identify a problem in your community that needs to be addressed. As we all know, again, community organizing, a group of people working together in order to solve a specific problem. So you start with a problem. You identify a problem in your community that you want to solve. However, your team or your organization cannot address every single challenge facing your community. Therefore, it makes the most sense to sit down with your team and identify one specific issue that you are going to target. Ask what topic or issue or theme do you want to work to change. If you're wanting to address unemployment in your community, for example, 3 problems could lack of available jobs in your community, lack of training of available jobs, or lack of transportation to get potential workers to do the job. While the 3 of these issues are worthy of your attention, you must pick one to channel your efforts towards. So this is very important. Kasi when we identify problems in our community, maraming problema. However, you have to strategically identify. Piliin mo yung kaya niyong solusyonan, yung problemang within your scope, and also yung napupusuan nyo talaga because we can only do so much and we have to solve problems one at a time. So again, the first step is strategically identify a problem in your community. The second step is brainstorm ideas for the project and incorporate your strengths. So this is very important. Amongst your leadership team, you should now begin to come up with creative ideas to address your issues. So kasi nakapili na kayo. So ano ba ang iba't ibang uri ng problema na maaari niyong bigyan solusyon? Let's say for example, problema sa basura, kaya yan. We can also malnutrition, pwede din. Pwede rin yung especially this is very common problem on students struggling with their academics and in answering their learning modules kasi nasa distant education na tayo, 'di ba? Dinidistribute na lang ang learning modules. So let's say for example, yun yung problem nyo. So you have to create ideas how to address that problem. So ideas can range from tutorial weekends where you volunteer to teach young children and help them with their learning modules. After this ideas sharing session, choose by vote the topic you are going to focus on. So let's say for example, the problem is our students who are struggling with their academics. So you can actually have weekly tutorials or every Wednesday tutorials na yun lang sa mga students within your community kasi mahirap rin ngayon na nasa pandemic tayo, so we have to observe proper protocol. So that is very important also, or you can conduct online tutorial services para mas safe. So you have to brainstorm ideas and incorporate your strengths. Saan ka magaling? Kasi pag alam mo kung saan ka magaling or kung ano yung mga kakayahan mo, mas madali kayo makakapag-usap. Kasi let's say for example, tutorial services. I'm good at English or I'm good at mathematics, sciences. So magde-delegate na kayo kung ano yung mga task na ibibigay ninyo at kung ano yung project na ipupursue ninyo. So again, the second step is brainstorm ideas for the project and incorporate your strengths. The third step is look for people or stakeholders who can help you with the project. So you must identify stakeholders. So what does it mean? Or ano ibig sabihin ng stakeholders? Stakeholders are people or organization that you believe will support your cause. If you recognize early on institutions or people who may be against you, the chances of you being able to figure out ways to work with them positively will increase. Also, some stakeholders who may support you could also work against you if you do not approach them properly. So, you already identified the problem. May plan na kayo kung paano nyo susolusyonan ang problema. Then, you now look for people. So, paano ba? Let's say, for example, you have to connect with the community of officers or the barangay officials. You have to inform them. You have to send them letters na informing them that you will conduct this project in order for them to be aware and for them to help you. Kasi, paano ba makakatulong ang barangay? They can actually inform the parents that you conduct tutorial services. So, they can connect you to possible students na kailangan ninyong suporta. O, ayun siya. So, stakeholders who can actually help you. Or let's say, for example, there are group of people or people who can actually provide you with resources sa inyong project, makatutulong sa inyo. So, look for people, stakeholders that can help you with the project. Alam naman natin, we can only do so much and there are things na kailangan talaga ng tulong sa iba kasi we cannot live alone. So we need to collaborate with other people. The step 4 is create a budget plan and look for alternative resources. A project budget is the total projected cost needed to complete a project over a defined period of time. It's used to estimate what the cost of the project will be for every phase of the project. Your project budget will be reviewed and revised throughout the project. The budget is the engine that drives your project funding. It communicates to stakeholders how much money is needed and when it is needed. It's an instrument to control project costs. The budget plan is your plan. The budget is your plan, rather, which acts as baseline to measure your performance as you collect the actual costs once the project has been started. So create a budget plan. This is very important kasi may plano na kayo, di ba? So of course, may mga bagay kayong gagamitin. Let's say, for example, if you will push for tutorial services, you need bond papers for printing of materials, or you need pens, or you need coloring pads, you need school supplies to be provided with your students. So that is very important. You have to list that. You have to create a budget plan because budget plan will be your guide na, uy, ito yung kailangan nating amount. So paano natin ito ma-raise? So you can actually send letter to your school administration to ask for funding, or you can actually ask the barangay officers or people who can actually help you with the budget. So budget plan is very important because if you will have that projected cost at kung magkano lang yung amount na kaya ninyo, so you can actually adjust your project also. So create a budget plan. That is very important because that is the engine that drives your project. The step 5 is set timetable of the project. So this is very important. 'Di ba? Meron na kayong problem, may paraan na kayo ng solusyon, nakakonekta kayo sa stakeholders, may budget na kayo. Next is the timetable. Timetable is very important. It's because alam natin ang bawat isa sa atin ay mga responsibilidad sa academics, sa ating pamilya. So by setting a timetable, alam ninyo na ito kay itong time na to magmi-meet kayo, itong time na to magkakandak kayo ng project, itong time na to magpe-prepare kayo. So maraming mga bagay ang inyong ililista upang kayo ay magkasama-sama. So what you need to do in this step is to solidify the date or dates that you plan to have your activities. Before you create the timeline of events, you absolutely must delegate responsibilities to your team. One of the biggest mistake leaders make is trying to do everything on their own. Delegating responsibilities is a good way to hold everyone on your team accountable. Be as specific as possible in your delegation. So every person must have a detailed summary of the roles that should be shared with everyone on the team. Once this is done and everyone is working with their respective assignments, you begin the process of launching your campaign. To build a sustainable grassroots campaign, everyone must know their roles and have clearly defined ways that they can contribute. So mahalaga ang pag-delegate ng task. So let's say for example, ang grupo na ito ay gagawa ng preparation para sa ating learning materials. Ang grupo na ito ay magko-communicate sa barangay officials. Ang grupo na ito ay mag-gather sa mga students na pwedeng maging beneficiary ng project. So, you have to delegate tasks. Hindi lahat aakuhin mo. Kasi minsan, as a leader, feeling natin, or nahihirapan tayong i-delegate ang task kasi kaya natin to, parang um, ako na bahala. So, you have to delegate tasks. Hindi ibig sabihin na kaya mo ay gagawin mo na lang. You have to delegate tasks because by delegating tasks, you foster sense of responsibility sa mga members mo at it's a way of for them to own the project na maiisip na, bahagi ako ng project, parte ako ng project kasi may task or responsibility ako. So again, by delegating tasks, you'll be able to set your timetable of the project at mas madali kayong matatapos sa mga bagay na inyong gagawin. Step 6 is implement the project. So ito na kasi okay na ang lahat, 'di ba? May timetable na rin kayo. So you implement the project. This is the very crucial part of the project because this is already the implementation. So lahat ng pinagpaguran ninyo, lahat ng plinano ninyo ay dito niyo na gagawin. The implementation phase involves putting the project into action. It is where you and your project team actually do the project to work to produce the deliverables. The word deliverable means anything your project delivers. So dito na ninyo yon gagawin ang lahat. So this is very crucial because this is the one that will make or break your project kasi ito na yon. Ito na yung bibigay solusyon sa problema na inyong na-identify nung una. And the last one is do monitoring and conduct evaluation. Project monitoring is a process of keeping a close eye on the entire project management life cycle and ensuring that project activities are on the right track. It is all about comparing actual performance to the goals you set. If you're not hitting milestones, the project has a high chance of failing. So project monitoring, di ba nag-i-implement na kayo? Prior pa lang dyan sa planning stage, sa preparation stage, at sa implementation, you conduct monitoring. Oy, nagawa ba ang task na ito? Na-carry out ba ito? Na-send ba ito? So you conduct monitoring para makita ninyo kung ano pa yung mga bagay na kailangang gagawin. On the other hand, project evaluation involves looking at the information you gather from monitoring and making decisions based on it. So ang evaluation ay kayo na yung mag-judge. Inyo nang hahatulan, parang ganun. Successful ba? Nasagawa ba? So project evaluation may come from you. Maaaring manggaling sa inyo, na-reach ba ninyo ang inyong mga goals, or maaari din sa mga inyong project beneficiaries. So, para sa kanila, naging helpful ba rin sa kanila ang inyong ginawa. So, project monitoring and evaluation enables you to make better decisions about ongoing and future projects. So, mahalaga ang monitoring and evaluation kasi dito nyo makikita kung ano yung mga bagay na kailangan nyo pang gawin or mga bagay na kailangan nyong i-maintain. So, again, my talk is very short and let's have a recap of the project organizing or community organizing and management. So step 1, strategically identify a problem in your community that needs to be addressed. So maghanap or ng problema na gusto ninyong solusyonan. Second one, brainstorm ideas for the project and incorporate your strengths. So mag-isip gamit ang inyong mga skills or kakayahan. Step 3, look for people or stakeholders who can help with you with your project. So collaborate, because in collaboration, you can actually solve a lot of things. Step 4, create a budget plan and look for alternative resources. So budget plan, the engine of the project. And hindi naman kasi kailangan na bumili. Maaring may mga bagay na meron ka na sa inyong bahay na maaring mong magamit sa project. So it's the lack of resources that we become resourceful. Step 5 is set timetable of your project. This is very important para makita ninyo na ito, may target date kayo, so kailangan niyong doblehin ang effort para ma-achieve or makaabot kayo sa deadline na iyon. Step 6 is implement the project, the very crucial part. And of course, the step 7, do monitoring and conduct evaluation. So these 7 steps are the basics of the community organizing and management. So I hope that you learned something from this. To end this talk, I'd like you to leave with a message. I always wondered why somebody doesn't do something about that. Then I realized I was somebody. As a youth, as a young leader, we ask ourselves, bakit ganito, may mga problemang nangyayari sa community, bakit hindi nasusolusyonan ng mga leader, bakit hindi nasusolusyonan ng ating mga magulang or ng ibang mga tao. And you try to ask ourselves or assess yourselves, bakit ikaw? Bakit ano bang ginagawa mo? Bakit wala kang ginawa rin? So, I always wondered why somebody doesn't do something about that. Then I realized I was somebody. So you are somebody and you can do something. Always strive to do good things. So every day is an opportunity to teach, help, and inspire other people. So don't hesitate to help someone because you don't know that someone you've helped today will eventually extend the help they had from you to others tomorrow. Once again, maayong adlaw. I am Alexis Cusibote and daghang salamat padayon, student leaders.
That's the president of PNU Mindanao for us. Thank you, Honorable Alexis. So at this moment, we are down to the second part of our discussion. The following speakers will help us with the technicalities of the student government systems. I hope we are all still enthusiastic for more and more knowledge. So now our third speaker is the Vice President for Internal Affairs of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government, a junior staffer of Youth Lead Philippines, a Caraga Youth Sectoral Representative of National Anti-Poverty Commission, and currently taking up Bachelor in Social Studies Education. Let us all welcome Mr. Ali Clint M. Lagrimas.
Good morning to all the student leaders of Mabog National High School who is now here for this webinar. Thank you so much for inviting me as one of the speakers. To Sir Levin, thank you so much, sir. It's an honor and privilege to speak with you all this day. So I hope you learn something from this topic, and I know this would really help you a lot as you go on with your leadership journey. So allow me to share to you my screen. The topic that I will be sharing to you for this morning is the Constitution of the Supreme Student Government based on the Deputy Order number 47 series of 2014. By the way, I am Ali Clint Lagrimas from Philippine Normal University, currently taking up Bachelor in Social Studies Education and Vice President for Internal Affairs of PNU Mindanao Student Government. Now, before we go on with the Constitution, let us answer this question. Why Constitution and bylaws are important to organizations and why do we need to study it? Bakit mahalaga ang Constitution sa isang organisasyon at bakit natin kailangan itong pag-aralan? So these are the importance of the Constitution. Una, it defines the power of each organ. The Constitution governs the power distribution, and it will define the extent of your power as an official or as an officer and its perimeter or the limitations. It helps to regulate the relationship between you as a student leader and the students in such a matter that no one part can abuse the power in any way possible. Pangalawa, it guarantees rights and provisions. So the Constitution guarantees all the basic rights to ensure everyone's well-being and dignity. All the basic rights that everybody is deemed for is stated in the Constitution. And pangatlo, it clarifies the purpose and functions of your organization. So through the Constitution, students will have better understanding of what the organization is all about and how the organization works. Now, so this answers the question about why the Constitution is important. Pero bakit nga ba natin kailangan pag-aralan ito as student leaders? Why do we need to study it as leaders? Knowing the Constitution, no, it would help us perform our duties and functions well. No, it will guide us to make right decisions that is grounded by what the Constitution and bylaws articulate. So leaders, reading the Constitution is not enough. So we have to understand and keep it in mind so that it would guide us as we take the path of leadership. Now, let's talk about the Supreme Student Government Constitution. So let's start with the legal basis. So the Constitution and bylaws of the Supreme Student Government is based from DepEd Order number 47 series of 2014. So yan yung mga batayan, legal na batayan ng SSG Constitution, the DepEd Order number 47 series of 2014. Now, ano nga bang laman ng SSG Constitution? So we have from the preamble up to the Article 20, the ratification of the Constitution. So basically, as shown, there are 20 articles inside the SSG Constitution. So here's the introductory part of the SSG Constitution, the preamble. So as you can read it, no. So this document is the introductory part of the Constitution, and it communicates the intention, the objectives, and purpose of this document. So the introductory part of the SSG Constitution is the preamble. Then we have Article 1, the general provisions. SSG, you will be referred to as SSG because you're high school, and then for elementary, they will be referred to as Supreme Pupil Government. So the Constitution that the elementary and the high school is the same, no? Constitution, the same Constitution. Article 2, name and domicile. So the name of this FSG shall be Mabog National High School Supreme Student Government, and your office will be located inside school premises. Domicile, that means the location. Now we're here in the Article 3, the Declaration of Principles, Objectives, and Policies. So principles, your qualities and attributes. When we say objectives naman, this refers to the things that you will take to achieve a desired outcome or your goal. And then the policies, these things will guide your decisions to achieve a rational outcomes, to achieve your goals. So, ito yung mga principles. So these are the objectives and the policies of the Supreme Student Government. So Article 4, membership. All bona fide students of Mabog National High School are members of the student body. So all enrolled students of Mabog National High School are members of the student body. Now we're here to Article 6, Bill of Rights. This article is imperative or vital, let's say, because It affirms and protects the basic rights of everyone, of every student. So it is designed to guarantee the freedom of the students and their protection against arbitrary or from the executive government actions. So from the government actions, no, that is unconstitutional. So this would protect the students. So here are the list of some important rights of the students. We have until section 16. So we have the right to learn, enjoy the freedom of speech and expressions, right to suffrage or right to vote, and all are stated here in the Constitution. Now let's move to another slide. Article 6, duties and obligation of students. Duties are obligations that every student is required or expected to. These are the things that the students need to fulfill as someone who is under the Constitution. Now, here's the rule. Everyone is under the law, right? And for you to obey the law, then you must know the law. So that's the rule. So leaders, I wanted to stress that this Constitution is for everybody. This is for student leaders, and this is also for the students because how would the students know their rights and responsibilities if they don't even know what's inside this Constitution, diba? So the Constitution is both for student leaders and the students. So we're done with the duties and obligations of the students. Let's move to Article 7, the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the SSG. So this part of the Constitution concerns you as the student leaders. This part speaks of how you should work as the highest representative or governing body of the students. So you assess each section, you assess each functions and responsibilities, know if you fulfill them or not. So by fulfilling your duties and obligations as someone in the position, as stated by the Constitution, it will surely help you prevent difficult outcomes. So in this section, we see how important our functions are, diba? Our responsibility as student leaders, we can see it here. So our duty as a student and as a leader at the same time, is not easy at all. There are too much of works to do. That's why it's not an easy job. So for you guys who committed to serve the students, you're all extraordinary and you all deserve to be recognized. So just keep fulfilling these things because all of these things, after all, you will feel fulfillment, no, diba? So padayon lang sa pag-serve sa ubang estudyante. We also have Article 8, the composition, election, qualification, and term of office of the SSG. So for Section 1, that is applicable for the elementary level. And for Section 2, yan na yung sa inyo. So, ang kailangang i-elect is the President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Auditor, PIO or the the Public Information Officer, the peace officers, grade level chairpersons, and if applicable, the grade level representatives. So the grade level counselors or the representative who shall get the highest number of votes among the elected grade level counselors in the respective grade level shall serve as the grade level chairperson. Now in Section 4, it is stated there that the election should be conducted annually. So usually, nangyayari kasi yung election before the end of the school year. Diba? Nasa February or March yata yun. Section 5, the campaign procedures and elections shall be in accordance with the SSG COMELEC Standard Election Code. So the election code is attached with this document. So you can download it and read the COMELEC Standard Election Code. And Section 6 are the qualifications if you want to run for a position. No, you have to be a bona fide student, be of good academic standing with a general average of 85. So kung 84 yung general average mo, you can't run for a position. It should be 85 and above at top. And then dapat walang grade during the first to third grading period of the current school year na fail. And of course, you have to be of good moral character and have not been subjected to any disciplinary sanctions. So the application will be submitted and will be approved by the Commission on Elections. So on the elected SG officers, after the election, once you're elected as the president down to the PIO and peace officers, you have to, for example, if you have another organization na mataas rin yung position mo, then you have to resign for that position. For example, you won as the vice president of the SSG, and then at the same time, you are the editor-in-chief of the school publication. Therefore, you have to resign as the editor-in-chief of the school publication because you have position now in the student government, and it is stated in the Constitution that you have to resign in all major elective or appointed positions in other clubs and organizations. Clear? Okay, so no residency shall be required of the candidates for all SPG or SSG elected positions. So, basta nag-aaral ka on that school, so you can run for any position. Walang requirements na lugar na dapat only from this place ang makakatakbo. But anyone, as long as you're enrolled in the school, no? In Section 9, the officers of the SSG shall hold office for 1 year. So 1 year yung pagiging officer ninyo. Now we're here to the most important part of my talk, your functions and responsibilities as officers. So for Section 1, we have the functions and duties of the president. So Section 1.1 states that officially represent the student body at any function on and off the campus. So basically, the role of the president does not only revolve inside the campus, pati na rin outside the campus, no? He or she shall preside over all meetings and or may designate another officer to preside a meeting. So, the president always should preside, pero he or she can designate someone to preside. For example, the vice president, o ikaw muna mag-preside for this meeting, so pwede yon. Serve as ex-officio member of all executive committees, enforce this constitution, bylaws, and other regulations that may be promulgated, and sign all official minutes, project proposals, resolution, correspondences, and other official papers of the SSG. So sa lahat ng officers dyan, bawal i-manipulate yung signature ni President, okay? So that's perjury. Bawal yan. So dapat si President talaga yung magsasign ng mga concept paper and all documents. The President also shall represent the SSG or designate his or her representative for any external or internal affairs or functions. So the President can designate representative from external or internal affairs or matters. So the president also shall head the coordinating council of school co-curricular organization, shall implement programs and projects, and create ad hoc committees. Ad hoc committees are created when the necessary arises. If there are things na hindi na kayang i-handle, so the president can create ad hoc committees. So the chairperson shall be appointed by the SSG president and perform other functions inherent and accidental to his or her office. Inherent, yung mga normal na functions. Tapos incidental are those kanang mga functions na kailangan talaga, although it's not the usual thing na ginagawa mo, pero need ka doon as president. That's why you have to accept it as stated in the Constitution. Because there are things naman, there are instances talaga as leaders na may napapagawa although hindi part ng functions natin yon, but there are incidental works na binibigay for us and we have to accept it as leaders, di ba? Now, here are the duties of the vice president. So in our context in PNU, we have two vice president. We have the external vice president and me as the internal vice president. So the duties of the vice president is first to assist the president in all matters where his or her assistance is necessary. So dapat laging alalay si Vice President kay President. In case na may kailangan si President, the Vice President is always there. So he or she also shall assume the office of the President should the position become vacant. So for example, the President is out for an official business or is absent, then the Vice President shall assume the position. He or she will become the officer in charge. 2.3, supervise members in planning and arranging meetings or programs of activities. Head the Internal Affairs Committee, conceptualize programs and projects, and plan activities with the grade level counselor or representatives. Later on, we will talk about the committees. And lastly, to perform other duties assigned by the SSG. So assigned by the president or assigned to your office. Now we also have the duties of the secretary. So the secretary shall keep accurate records of the minutes and document proceedings of every meeting. He or she also shall keep file of all pertinent documents and papers of the SSG and make them accessible for the student body. In our office, sa PNU Mindanao Student Government, ang ginagawa namin is we keep all the documents on a place inside our office wherein dapat kayo lang yung nakakahawak doon. Hindi siya pwedeng hawakan ng ibang estudyante. For example, if your office is very open for everyone, dapat kayo lang officers ang may access doon sa mga documents na yon. Pinapalabas lang siya if kailangan talaga, if may manghingi, no? Yun lang yung time na ilalabas yung mga documents. And then, most importantly, dapat yung documents ninyo nakakompile yan. Walang kulang, no? If possible, you can scan them and then put it on a Google Drive para anytime you can access them, no? With the use of internet, you can access the documents that you need without actually looking for those nakapile na documents. No, that would be efficient if you can, diba? Especially now na we're on the pandemic, so most of our documents are my soft copy, so you can keep those things in a Google Drive. Another is provide immediate documentations and report for every implemented project. So every time may matatapos na mga projects or events, then you have to submit an accomplishment report and prepare all notices of SSG meetings. So head of SSG or SPG secretariat. That's the committee, the secretariat committee. You're the head, the secretary. Another is to perform other duties assigned by the SFP, assigned by the president or assigned to your office. Next is the treasurer. What are the duties of the treasurer? So as the treasurer, you shall keep all the financial records of the SSG and be one responsible for any information related to the student activity fund. So dapat you have all the files, no, with regards to financial records. Serve as the disbursing officer of all SSG funds. Prepare the annual budget of the SSG. So as soon as nasa position ka na, you have to prepare for the things that needs a budget. So for example, from if you need something for your office, dapat naka-budget na yan. If you need printer, for example, dapat you have the budget of all the things and then the events. Dapat may budget na yan. For example, magkano yung budget nyo for the intramurals and all the events, dapat is nakaplanado na yan. Kasi just like in our context in PNU Mindanao, before the school year or the academic year start, nagkakaroon na kami ng planning and budget allocation. So all the projects na gagawin namin for this whole academic year, lalagyan namin yan ng budget. So that's the importance of preparing the budget para later on, it would be efficient for you guys. Next is prepare accurate and transparent financial reports every month, every after activity, and at the end of the term. So dapat, as the treasurer, dapat you always have financial reports. Para kung may maghanap, then you can tell them, oh, here's the financial report. Every month, whether it's not necessary na every month talaga, but it should be na every activity, after every activity, dapat mayroong financial report para alam ng students kung saan napunta yung mga contribution or saan napunta yung budget ng SSG. Next is formulate pertinent financial guidelines for the organization. Next is serve as an ex-officio member of any and all financial committee for the purpose of considering budgetary or financial matters of the SSG. 4.7, to conduct an inventory of all SSG property and submit a report in writing of its condition, state. So as the treasurer, you have to make an inventory report. Dapat lahat ng things niyo sa office are labeled. No, just like in our office, ang mga printer, ang mga chairs, ang mga tables, all of those things are may sticker na naka-attach, indicating if the thing is in good state or hindi na siya nagagamit. So that's an important part of being an officer as a treasurer. So you have to conduct an inventory to your properties and submit a report. I just don't know if saan nyo isa-submit because in our context, we usually submit it to the supply office. Kasi sila yung nagmamanage ng mga properties and supplies. And lastly, perform other duties assigned by the SSP. And to the auditor, these are your duties. Certify legitimacy and correctness of the disbursement of funds. So you have to check Audit all expenditures of the SSG funds, assist the treasurer in formulating guidelines and reports. So dapat si auditor at si treasurer magkasama yan sila. If mayroon ng financial report from the treasurer, auditor shall audit the financial report. Titignan niya kung tama ba yung uh, financial report ni treasurer, eksakto ba sa pera na nilabas? Ang total amount na nagastos, no? So that's how important the auditor is. Keep and update inventory of all SSG property. So siya rin nag-update. Okay. So the auditor shall keep the inventory. Si treasurer siya yung nag-inventory, and then si auditor siya yung nag-keep ng inventory from the treasurer. So act as the assistant head of the finance committee. So di ba nasabi ko kanina na ang head ng finance committee is si treasurer, therefore si auditor naman siya yung assistant head ng financial committee. And lastly, to perform other duties assigned by the office. Now, to the public information officer, he or she shall disseminate and promote the thrust and objectives of the SSG. Disseminate and promote the thrust and objectives. Build and maintain a credible image of the SSG. Take charge in the promotion of SSG project and activities. Well, ito pala yung duties ni PIO, no? You have to promote the SSG. Head of Publicity Committee, perform other duties assigned by the SSG. So, si PIO, hindi lang siya nag-disseminate ng information, but ang important na trabaho or duty ni PIO is dapat maintain niya ang credible image ng SSG at saka ma-promote ang SSG. So that's the thing na pinaka duty ni PIO pala, no? Not only disseminating the information, but also to build and maintain a credible image of the SSG. Now, to the peace officer, he or she shall help the presiding officer to maintain peace and order during meetings. So, every meetings, dapat si peace officer is siya yung nag-maintain ng peace. So, for example, may mga nag-uusap, so dapat i-observe the proper protocols and procedures during a meeting. Act as disciplinary officers if necessary, maintain peace and order within the premises of the school, not only on meetings, pati na rin sa inside ng school nyo. Sila yung nag-maintain ng peace and order. Kasama yung mga sergeant at arms ng every class, no, as stated on section 7.4. So 7.5, chairs the Students' Welfare Committee and appoint its members. 7.6, perform other duties assigned to the office. So later on, we'll talk about the committees. For the grade level chairperson, he or she shall act as a grade level head coordinator of all SSG programs and projects to the grade level representatives of his or her grade level and perform other duties assigned by the SSG. So, ito yung function ni grade level chairperson. So, yung head coordinator sa lahat ng projects ng SSG. And for the grade level representatives, he or she shall represent his or her grade level in all of the meetings of the SSG. So yung attend the meetings in all Sa lahat ng meetings na kasali dapat yung grade level niya. Will serve as the grievance desk of their respective grade level, conceptualize and implement programs and projects for their respective grade level, and assist in the effective implementation of SSC's program and projects. And lastly, perform other duties assigned by the SSC. Now we're here now at Article 10, the permanent committees in the SSG. Ito na yung mga committee na sinasaad kanina sa Article 9. There shall be 7, okay? There shall be 7 committees, namely the Executive Committee, the Internal Affairs Committee, the Secretariat, the Finance, the Publicity, Student Welfare Committee, and Special Projects Committee. So 7 na committee. So member of each committee in the SSG shall be appointed by the President from among the officers of the homeroom organization, upon which the recommendation of the chairperson of the committee. So the executive committee shall be headed by the president, as stated, di ba? Nakasad na rin yun sa mga duties ninyo. The internal affairs committee shall be headed by the vice president. The secretary committee shall be headed by the secretary, of course. And the finance committee shall be headed by the treasurer, and he or she will be assisted by the auditor. This committee will take charge of all the monetary matters and properties of the SSG. So the publicity committee shall be headed by the PIO and shall be responsible for disseminating the information and matters concerning the SSG. The Students Welfare Committee also shall be headed by the peace officers and shall look at the rights of the students and act upon their complaints. The Students Welfare Committee, as ang head nitong committee na ito is the peace officers. Yun nga. If ever there are commotions between students, the Students Welfare Committee, can solve the problem. We also have Special Projects Committee headed by a person appointed by the President. So to the President, may na-appoint na ba kayong Special Project Committee? If wala, so you have to appoint someone and shall implement special programs and projects of the Department of Education. So we also have other committees, permanent or ad hoc in nature, may be created by the SSG as the need arises. If there's a need, then you can create ad hoc committees. Article 11, we have homeroom class organization. So there shall be a homeroom class organizations in every section composed of officers parallel to the organizational structure of SSG. So if the SSG has president hanggang PIO, dapat yung homeroom din may class officers. Meron din silang president hanggang PIO and peace officer. Meron din. So the homeroom class organization shall be responsible in implementing programs and projects of each class. So from the SSG, the implementation of programs shall be organized by the classroom organization na rin kasi may organization na bawat classroom, di ba? So they're the one responsible to implement the projects of the SSG. May homeroom-based classroom organization na kasi. So it will be efficient. So the homeroom class organization shall assist the SSG in implementing its projects and programs. The homeroom class organization shall be guided by the designated class officers who must be part of the teaching staff of the school. Article 12, the Coordinating Council of Campus Co-Curricular Organizations. So this article states na di ba sabi kanina na si President yung mag-head ng campus co-curricular organizations, and then the council shall be composed of the presidents of every homeroom, of every classroom. So the president shall, ulitin ko, the president shall head the campus co-curricular organization, and then the members of the coordinating council will be the presidents of each co-curricular organizations. The coordinating council shall have the following functions. So, coordinate school-wide activities, provide support a consultative mechanism, plan programs, and synchronize students' activities in the campus, serves as the venue to present accomplishment reports, financial reports, and other matters of the SSG or SPG and other organizations as needed or required, and set rules and standards for the collection of membership fees or contribution by recognized campus co-curricular clubs or organizations for the approval of school heads. So, clubs and organizations can collect funds. I just don't know if sa school nyo may mga clubs ba or organization aside from the student government and the student publication. If meron, you have to coordinate with them through this council, the coordinating council of campus co-curricular organizations, and then you can talk about the membership fees and other contributions, which is subject for approval of your school head. Another is the coordinating council shall meet at least once every quarter or upon notice of the chairperson upon the request of any of its members as often as the council may deem necessary. The school head shall serve as the advisor of the coordinating council. As such, all resolutions and agreements arrived at the coordinating council shall be noted by the school head. So the school head shall serve as the advisor of the council. Now the advisor, we will skip this part because I know Sir Levin already know these things. This concerns him as your advisor. So I know the qualifications. I know pasok si Sir dyan. And the Commission on Elections. Article 14, the Commission on Elections, referred to as the SSG COMELEC, shall be established within 21 days before the election. So, 21 days before the scheduled election, dapat may COMELEC na. No, the COMELEC shall be the only agency that will manage the electoral process, including the campaign. The COMELEC members shall have the following qualifications. The composition of members on the SSG COMELEC shall be free from grade 4. This is for SPG, and for SSG, it is stated in section 5 that the composition of members in the COMELEC shall be free from each grade level. And section 6 states that the members of SSG COMELEC shall elect a chairperson among its members. The SSG COMELEC shall have the following duties and responsibilities. So here are the duties and responsibilities of the COMELEC. Yung function nila happens only before the election. Because they spearhead the election. Hindi pwedeng yung officers ngayon ang mag-spearhead ng election for the next academic year. Hindi siya pwede. Dapat yung COMELEC. So, Article 5, the General 15. Article 15, the General Assembly. So, the General Assembly of the SSG shall be composed of all elected homeroom class organization presidents. So, you have the General Assembly, and it shall be composed of all classroom presidents from all grade levels and all sections. The General Assembly shall be a forum for information and consultation from which decisions shall be significantly considered. The General Assembly shall be convened by the SSG President once every 2 months as the need arises. So, to the President, dapat constant yung communication nyo between the General Assembly, between the homeroom class organization presidents. So, importante yung communication between the president, you as the president of the SSG, and the homeroom class office, the president of each class. Article 16, membership to division, regional, and national federation of student governments. So the SSG shall remain to be an automatic member of the division, regional, and national federation of supreme student governments. So as such, the SSG shall abide the rules and regulations issued by the proper federation consistent with the policies and guidelines of the Department of Education. Now we're here at Article 17, meeting and quorum. This is very important, no? Because we usually do meeting, diba? And we have to ensure that we have to ensure that we are compelling to the proper procedures when we do meetings, no? The SSG shall conduct regular meetings every first and third week of the month or as agreed by the officers. So, importante yung regular meeting with the officers, no? Special meeting of the SSG may be called upon by the SSG president or the majority of SSG officers. The majority of the officers of the SSG shall constitute 50% plus 1. That's a quorum. A quorum means 50% of the population plus 1. So for example, if the officers is 10, so 50% of 10 is 5 plus 1 is, so at least 6 votes, that's the majority. So each members of the SSG is entitled to only 1 vote. If the votes end in a draw, the SSG president or the acting chair of the meeting shall cast the vote to break the tie. So no proxy shall be allowed when voting. So hindi pwedeng si president ng section A is magpapadala siya ng representative to a meeting and then si representative yung magvo-vote. No, that's unconstitutional. Dapat si president lang yung pwede mag-vote. If kung wala siya, then the proxy cannot vote. Article 18, finance. So to the financial officer, to the financial committee, this is very important. All receipts of money from all sources shall be evidenced by acknowledgement receipts. You have to take note that receipts should be official, hindi yung gawa-gawa lang. For example, you have to buy materials sa mga store, dapat official receipt yung kailangan ha, hindi yung mga sulat kamay lang. I mean, yung receipts na sinulat lamang sa isang papel, hindi yun pwede. The monthly report on the receipts or collections made duly signed by the treasurer and the president and noted by the SSG advisor shall be posted on SSG bulletin board and will be submitted to the school head. It is very important for transparency. You know, the receipts, how your funds are being disbursed. So dapat may transparency and it should be posted for the public, no, in the bulletin board so that students can read, can see how or where the money goes. The SSG shall deposit all funds received, collected, and shall maintain banking connection for the regular deposit and saving account. The organization may accept cash donations from any member or any public or private person or institution as long as it will not affect or compromise the integrity of the SSG. The SSG also may undertake fundraising activities to subsidize its project and activities as long as it will not affect or compromise the integrity of the SSG. So you can conduct fundraising activities. You can solicit if you want for you to pursue projects that you want to pursue because our budget is limited. It's very tight. That's why we need we need to raise funds for us to make projects, no? And according to the Constitution, hindi naman siya masama as long as it does not compromise the integrity of the SSG, then you can do what you want to raise funds. The SSG shall enjoy the freedom to determine its priorities in the disbursement of its funds, provided that it shall be actually directly and inclusively used to support or finance SSG programs, projects, and activities. All the disbursement and bank withdrawals shall be made in accordance with the programs, project, and activities of the SSG embodied in the yearly action plan endorsed by the SSG advisor and duly approved by the school head. The SSG president and the treasurer shall be the signatory of all fund documents. So importante si SSG president and treasurer as signatories, no, at the end of every documents na may fund na kinakailangan, dapat nandun yung signature ni treasurer. Hindi pwede na wala yung signature ni treasurer tapos may signature lang ni president. So, hindi yan pwede. Dapat silang dalawa in all fund disbursement and bank withdrawals. So, all funds disbursement and bank withdrawals must be accompanied with the SSG resolution duly noted by the advisor. All expenses must be supported by official receipts. Yan, nasabi ko kanina, dapat official receipts yung kailangan. The SSG, through the treasurer and the auditor, shall promulgate financial guidelines for proper financial management. So at the end of every activity, SSG shall liquidate expenses before another disbursement. Without this, succeeding bank withdrawals shall not be authorized. Funds of SSG shall be audited by the end of the term. SSG at the end of every activity. So if hindi nyo na-liquidate yung mga expenses during your first activities, then you can proceed with another activity and then gagamit na naman kayo ng pera. So that's unconstitutional. Pinagbabawal yun. So dapat kung if there's another activity, dapat every after activity, dapat naka-audit na lahat. May financial report na so that you can proceed with another activity. Financial statement shall be posted in the SSG bulletin every month. So for transparency, dapat nakapost yung mga financial records ng SSG so that alam ng mga estudyante saan patungo yung mga pera nila. Article 19, impeachment, resignations, and vacancies. This is also important, no? The officers of the SSG may be impeached on the following grounds. So officers, these are the things that you have to take note, no? Because if you have violated the Constitution, ikaw ay nanganganib na baka ma-impeach, no? It is stated here that grounds are culpable violation of the Constitution and bylaws. If you violate the Constitution and bylaws, gross misconduct, violation to person and authority, negligence, and disloyalty to the cause of SSG and the school, non-attendance in both regular and special meetings for 3 times without valid cause. So, hindi yan dapat, hindi ka dapat mag-absent ng at least 3 times without valid reason. Dapat, if you want to absent on meetings, both regular and special, dapat you have informed someone, and or in either way, you have to make letter, no, of what's the cause of being absent, abuse or misuse of power and authority. So, if there's an abuse, of power, that's ground for impeachment. So, ingat-ingat tayo dyan, officers. Kasi maraming mata ang nakatingin sa atin, initignan kung ano yung mga pagkakamali natin, and baka may magawa tayo na grounds for impeachment. Yes, you can be impeached. Section 2, 2/3 vote of General Assembly shall be necessary to decide after hearing a case of impeachment. Dapat 2/3 votes galing sa General Assembly. The General Assembly, di ba, is composed of the classroom presidents and the president. No, so the decision of the General Assembly shall be final. However, the official charge shall be informed 20 days prior to his or her impeachment case proceedings of the charge or charges against him or her, to afford him or her the opportunity to be heard with or without a counsel on his or her defense. So, dapat yung mag-undergo ng impeachment proceedings na officer, he or she shall be informed prior to the impeachment case proceeding 20 days before the impeachment day. The proceedings. Resignation of an elected officer shall be in writing and shall take effect 5 days after the approval of the majority of SSG officers. So, if you want to resign, you have to write a letter, and if it's approved, it will take effect after 5 days, no, after the approval. Or if there's no approval sa resignation mo, then hindi ka makakapag-resign. Resignation of an appointed officer shall be in writing and shall take effect immediately after the approval of the appointing authority. Any vacancy in any of the positions for the reason of death, resignation, impeachment shall be filled, subject to recommendation of the SSG. So, any vacancy in the SSG, except the position of the president, shall be filled within 10 school days from the day the position is rendered considered vacant by appointment of the president from among the qualified members of the SSG. Immediately upon appointment, the appointee shall serve the remaining period. So, si SSG president yung mag-a-appoint, no? The SSG COMELEC shall certify as to the vacancy occurring in the SSG, and the SSG advisor shall certify the fact of appointment of the officer to the vacant position. Now, we're here in the last article of the SSG Constitution, the ratification of the Constitution. So, this Constitution and bylaws may be amended or modified in full or in part once every 3 years of its official issuance to the DepEd Order Memorandum. So, if there are things that you wanted to change from this Constitution, from what you have read from this Constitution, you can submit an amendment or a proposal for changes. No? Open ang DepEd for any changes of this Constitution. You can ratify this if you want. You can propose amendments if you want. But there is a process, of course. We should undergo process. The amendments, no? As stated, the proposed amendments shall be transmitted to the Office of the Undersecretary for Regional Operations at least 1 month before holding any national conference or events organized for the purpose, where the same shall be submitted for consultation, discussion, and deliberation. Amendments to this Constitution and bylaws shall take effect immediately upon approval of the Secretary of Department of Education. So ratification of the Constitution amendments is all possible if we just want to. Pero it's a very long process, you know. Pero you can. For example, there are things na you wanted to include in this constitution na sa tingin nyo is may kulang ang constitution, then you can submit proposal for amendments. Diba? So before I end this talk, I would like to congratulate everyone taking this journey, for committing to be an officer despite the job description, no, how hard being an officer is. Thank you so much for accepting the challenge to serve the studentry. One thing that the Constitution is teaching us, no, students, that we can use to our life as we go on is do not assume unless otherwise stated. So do not assume things unless otherwise stated. If this thing is not stated, then do not assume. Do not take actions on these things, because as an officer, if you make violations, things that are unconstitutional, those things are ground for impeachment. So you might be impeached, no? So do not assume unless otherwise stated. So you have to make decisions that are in line with what the Constitution is telling, no? As what is articulated in the Constitution, yun lamang yung dapat nating gawin. Maliban sa kung may mga bagay na wala sa Constitution, then we shouldn't do those things, no, kung wala ito sa Constitution. Thank you so much for inviting me once again. Daghang salamat to all the students, to all the listeners, to Sir Kevin for inviting me here to be one of the speakers. The student government of PNU Mindanao is very much grateful for the invite.
Thank you, Mr. Ellie. Our notes are starting to fill more pages of our papers. But wait, we still have more. Secure pages on your paper for our fourth speaker. He is the Vice President for External Affairs of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government, the Purok Youth President of Purok 12 Libertad, Butuan City, a member of Global Network for Women, and currently taking up Bachelor in Social Studies Education. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Carl Jason G. Misanes.
Good day, everyone. This is Carl Jason Misanes, the Vice President for External Affairs of Philippine Normal University Mindanao. I will be your discussant for this session as regards to parliamentary rules and procedures. Taken from Reverendo M.D. Han, and this was prepared by Honorable Kerwin D. Mimbrado, the President of PNU Mindanao SG, in year 2018. To start our discussion, let me first ask you a question. A question which is, why are meetings conducted? So, in order for the body to formally and officially come up with collegial decisions that are often beneficial to the general membership. So if we have an organization or a company, if we want to have a smooth sailing meetings, then we need to adopt with the parliamentary rules and procedures, because these rules and procedures are a big help, or is a big help to certain organization to be able to come up with a very good decision without hassle, without a delay with their decision making. Because at some point, if all members will debate at a lot of motions or topics or issues being raised in a meeting, then that would mean delay, and that would mean so much time, and wasted time is not good. Okay, so in meetings, any measures being considered for deliberation, decision is done through a motion. As I have mentioned, uh, every members of a certain organization can raise a motion, but through parliamentary rules and procedures, it will lessen the burden on the part of the organization. It will lessen the time, the consumption of time. All right? Sige. So, parliamentary procedure basics. There are four methods of voting: voice, standing, roll call, secret ballot. So these methods of voting, every time a motion is being raised by a member of the board or a member of such organization, and is questioned or objected by someone else or also a member of the organization, then the chair will call for a question. A question means voting, okay? So if the chair calls for a question, that means the House will be divided. So how will the House vote for? Okay, so there are voice. The chair may say, everyone, please say nay or please say yay. If it's yay, you will vote for yes. That means yes. If it's nay, then that means no. That is another form of saying yes or no in which is a British type, no, parliamentary uh, answering or voting for a question. Also, we can also have standing. Those who are in favor with the motion presented by Mr. Mimbrado, please stand. And then the secretary will count. Okay, so ganon. We also have roll call. The chair or the secretary will call one by one the members of the organization or of the forum, no? Say, for example, in Senate, the Senate president will say who are in favor with the motion filed by Honorable Amy Marcos. So the chair will direct the secretary to roll call for votes, especially that they are now using Zoom because they cannot, some of them will not be present in Senate. So therefore, all of them have to be called so that their votes will be recorded, properly recorded. Also, if uh, the members will opt to have a secret ballot in case that the motion requires utmost secrecy because of some issues, there is a very big issue on it. Therefore, the chair may rule that secret balloting will be used as a form of voting of the member to avoid personal, perhaps personal um, discontentment or personal disappointment by the members to someone who voted against their motion. Okay? Now, the question now is, can the chairman vote? Yes, in order to force a tie or to break one if they are a member of the group. Not unless if it is provided in their constitution or other policies in their organization that the chair, the presiding officer, is not allowed to vote. Okay, that is an exemption if it is written in their constitution or their IRR, internal rules and regulations, in the conduct of their meetings. Okay, so if it is not, then it's allowed for the chairman to vote yes. Okay, I mean to vote. Okay, now we also have only one topic at a time can be discussed. Okay. Uh, of course, why parliamentary rules and procedure makes it easy for an organization to be able to come up with a decision. It's because it is not allowed for the group to discuss two topics at a time. It should be one topic at a time. So if one motion is raised, that motion must be discussed, that motion must be dealt with by the body, and then if it's already approved, then proceed with the next topic or proceed with the next issue at hand. Ganon. We cannot tackle two topics at a time. For example, if the motion raised will affect a certain motion that is to be raised by someone else, then that motion must be The member that will raise the second motion must wait for the first motion to be decided by the body. Ganon, ha? So always remember that. Because parliamentary rules and procedure is done in order for a meeting to be smooth sailing. Okay? How can it be smooth sailing if we will discuss two topics? O, di ba? Now, next is the person who makes a motion has the right to discuss it first. Therefore, okay, for example, if I will be raising a motion, I am a senator, I will be raising a motion to amend this and that, this law. And then uh, someone will ask question, but the presiding officer will say any discussion. If the presiding officer says any discussion, then the one who filed the motion can discuss actually. So, for example, me, I'd like to further discuss the motion in order to enlighten my colleagues of the motion I filed, Mr. Chair or Madam Chair. And so the chair will, okay, proceed. Then you will discuss because you have the right to discuss. It is your right to discuss. If you will waive your right, then that's a time that the other members can also raise their concerns. Kasi mo naman siya, the presiding officer will say, any discussion? And if there's no discussion, objection. Okay, ganon. Okay, questions, objection. Okay, ganon. Okay, ganon. Sige. Next, parliamentary procedure basics on the gavel or gavel. Gavel is a symbol of power and authority used by the presiding officer to give instructions to the members. The number of taps have a specific meaning. The gavel is a symbol of authority. Okay, if you could notice, the Senate President have a gavel. The Speaker of the House have a gavel. The Supreme Court Chief Justice have a gavel. Other court officials in regional trial courts and other municipal trial courts and other courts have gavels. This is to symbolize the power that the institution have or the law has, okay, or the organization has, the person in authority. Okay, ganon. Okay? The tapping of gavel, as I've mentioned, have a specific meaning. No, the number of taps have specific meanings. One tap follows an announcement of adjournment. So, if someone filed a motion to adjourn the meeting, then the presiding officer will ask any objection, questions, clarification. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. One tap, then that's it. Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. If the gavel is tapped already, then the meeting is adjourned. Completion of a business item. Okay, if a motion, say for example, yung business item, it's considered as the agenda of the meeting. Okay, so if one agenda is already done, then the presiding officer will tap the gavel, and that means you're done with that. No more discussion about it, not unless it will be raised by somebody else in the next meeting. Okay, and then members to be seated. For example, in the beginning of the meeting, everyone is standing because of the presiding officer is entering the room, or you're singing the Lupang Hinirang, the national anthem, and the prayer. No, after which the presiding officer will tap the gavel. Okay, that means everyone is requested to have their seats. Okay, 2 taps is call the meeting to order. If that's it, if it's already tapped twice, then that means everyone must act accordingly, must act formally. Okay, until the meeting is adjourned. Okay, 3 taps, all members to stand. Okay, series of taps is restores order to a meeting. For example, everyone is in chaos because of a certain topic, and then they're gossiping. Of course, that is not allowed in parliamentary rules and procedure. Therefore, the presiding officer will have to order them. Not until they settle, the presiding officer will tap the gavel. Okay? Or not unless the presiding officer will order the marshals or the sergeant at arms to hold these people outside the meeting hall, no? Have these people move outside the meeting hall if they are not or if they're uncontrollable. Okay? Ganon yon. That's how parliamentary rules and procedures is. It's very formal, and because of its formality, it allows the discussion of topics very well discussed, and it allows time limitation or limitation of time, no, because it will not take so much time. If you have this business, if you have this meeting set by 8, then you have to start by 8. If people or if the members are not in quorum, then you cannot start, ganon. So you are being bounded with these rules in order for you not to have some crisscrossing, no crisscrossing of issues at hand. You have to stick with the agenda, and then you have to follow the rules, the parliamentary rules and procedures, in order for you to not to consume so much time, in order for you to save time, and in order for you to meet with the things or the issues that you have to discuss. No? Sige. Remember, generally, a motion needs to be seconded by another legitimate member before it could be considered for formal discussion, subjected to clarificatory questions, debates, and amendments. Okay? If nobody will second the motion, then that will be lost. Okay? The filed motion, if nobody seconds such motion, then that will be lost, meaning it will not be discussed. It will not be entertained by the chair because it is a lost motion. Nobody supported such motion. So therefore, someone must second in order for the body to discuss the motion. A thoroughly discussed motion may be adopted or approved by the body unanimously, or if objected to, by majority vote of its members present during a meeting session where there is a quorum. Okay? So if nobody objects, then the presiding officer will have to approve such motion. Hearing none, the motion is approved. Yan. But if there is an objection, then the presiding officer may say, "What is your objection?" Okay, and then having said that, so the presiding officer will raise a question, no, a question that means voting. If the presiding officer says, "Okay, let's ready for a question," then the people will reply, or the members will reply, "Question." That means you will be voting for the motion or against the motion. Remember, you have 4 types of ways in voting. Okay. Yon. Okay. Motion. If not seconded, it is lost. If defeated on the floor, it is dead. Okay. Motion is a formal, let us understand also what is a motion. No? Motion is a formal proposal submitted by a member for consideration of the body. As a general rule, a motion should be preceded by phrase, "I move that," "I move for," or "I move to." Okay, so ganon. We have to be very aware of these things, no? In order for us to be able to meet with the standards of parliamentary rules and procedures, and to be able to have time management and discuss thoroughly the issues that are being raised, no, that are at hand. So we have these motions: privilege motions, main motions, subsidiary motions, incidental motions. Now, let's try to analyze, or let's try to understand what are these 4 types of motions. Okay. Now, but before that, we have to know steps on handling a main motion. You have to raise hand, asked to be recognized by the president. For example, I'll raise my hand and then say, Mr. President, I'd like to be recognized. And then you wait for the president to recognize you. Yes, Mr. Membrado. Yes, Mr. Sibote. Yes, Mr. Haro. Yes, Mr. Misanes. Yes, Mr. Lagrimas. Yes, Miss Bandoy. Like that. Or uh, the chair recognizes the lady from Bisilig City. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Butuan City or from somewhere else, no? Some any identification of such member who is raising or who is asking the president for him to be recognized. And then motion is currently stated, correctly stated rather, then motion is seconded. So motion is correctly stated. Remember, I move that, I move for, or I move to. Okay? And then motion is seconded. Remember, if the motion is not seconded, properly seconded, then it is lost. Then the next steps will not be observed. Motion is repeated by the president. It will not be repeated by the president because it's already lost. But if it is seconded, then the president has to repeat the motion raised. No, for example, I move that we adopt the garbage policy as recommended by Honorable Membrado, Mr. Chair. Then the someone seconds the motion, and then the president or the presiding officer would then say that uh, the motion filed by Honorable Misanes the to adopt the garbage system proposed by Honorable Membrado is hereby accepted. Any discussion? Any ganon, no? Any discussion, clarification, question, objection, ganon. So motion is discussed. If there is a discussion, it will be discussed, and if there's a clarificatory question, then it will be entertained, of course. And then if there is an objection, then motion is voted upon. No, remember there's an open close parenthesis if objected. So it will be discussed, it will be clarified, or there will be clarificatory questions raised after the discussion, or if there is no discussion, there can also be a clarificatory questions, then that will be answered by the one who raised the motion. And if the two is not present, if the two will not be present, then if there is an objection, then that will be dealt with. There will be a question, and that will be voted upon by the members of the body. And then results of vote announced by the president or by the chair, the presiding officer. Then president announces decision in motion upon the votes gathered or upon the votes casted. No, so if the vote favors the motion, then the president announces the decision that the motion of Honorable Misanes to adopt the garbage system proposed by Honorable Membrado is hereby approved. Remember the gavel, huh? Remember how many taps. Okay. So these are the examples of privileged motions. Fixed time to which to adjourn. It is the privilege of the body to decide, no? Then adjourn if unqualified. Yeah, no? Take a recess. It's a privilege, no? Recess means you have to rest. You attend to your personal necessities, like you go to CR, comfort rooms, no? Then raise a question of privilege, no? Privilege speeches, call for order of the day. That's also part, no? Subsidiary motions is lay on the table. Lay on the table is I think, or we will be able to discuss that later. I do not have to discuss that here. Call for the previous question, modify the limits of the debate, postpone definitely, commit or refer to a committee, then amend an adopted question, then postpone indefinitely. Those are subsidiary motions. We'll discuss that later. These kinds of subsidiary motions, and also the previous one, the privilege motions. Now, main motions. The purpose of the main motions is used to introduce new ideas to the meeting. Okay? New ideas that will yield um, solutions to issues that are being set, no, in the meeting. The agenda, no, must be stated in the form as I've mentioned a while ago. I move that and I move to. Cannot be in a negative form. Okay? So how can we say that it cannot be a negative form? I don't I don't subscribe with the idea that we have to raise motions that are in negative form. Motions must be in positive form. So if people negates such positive motion, that is the form of objection, and that's why the idea is the motion should not be in a negative form. Okay, because if it's already in a negative form, then I guess that's unparliamentary. It's not good to be included in the minutes. So it's because there are instances that people will not allow um, negative ideas or negative remarks to be included in the minutes. That's why there are some instances that members move to strike out such phrases or such words in the minutes or in the journals, no, of the secretary. So motion, as I mentioned, requires a second. Okay, secondary motion, seconding the motion. It can be amendable, debatable, and if it's objected, as I've said, it requires majority vote of those members who are present in the meeting that is in quorum. No, of course, it's already understood that when the meeting is already ongoing, that therefore quorum is being observed. Main motions, the person who makes a motion cannot speak against it. Of course, why will you speak against it? If you speak against it, then that means you are negating your motion. You should not negate your motion. If you realized something while you are discussing the motion, well, you can withdraw. No, I have read an encyclopedia on a British parliamentary rules and procedure, because before, when we've had our discussion, a certain speaker said that a motion cannot be withdrawn, but I have read that a motion can be withdrawn if it is filed formally, if it is raised formally to a presiding officer, and it is also observed in court. It is also observed in the Senate. Okay. um if you have time, you can watch the impeachment trial of Renato Corona. Parliamentary rules and procedure is being observed there. If you have time, you can also watch Senate hearing. Um, Parliamentary rules is also observed there during the time that, or this certain situation is observed there during the time that Senator Amy Marcos withdraw her motion, no, her motion or her vote. Main motions can be reconsidered. Can also be reconsidered, no. Cannot interrupt another speaker. Okay. Main motions. You cannot file another motion. As I've mentioned kanina, you cannot file another motion. You have to wait for someone who filed for a certain motion, that motion be finished, no, be dealt with and be decided upon until such motion is being approved or decided upon. You cannot raise another motion. You have to wait. Okay. Proper example is, Mr. President, I move that the organization hold a cookout for all SG officers. Yan ang main. That's an example of main motion. As I mentioned kanina, no? I move that we adopt the garbage system proposed by Honorable Mimbrado. Or proposed by the good gentleman from Prosperidad, Agusan del Sur. Okay, so main motions, general main motions, specific main motions. Reconsider and have entered on the minutes, then repeal, adopt a report or resolution, amend, adjourn, take from the table. Okay, so that's already discussed. Now, here are also incidental motions, examples of incidental motions. Suspend the rules. Withdraw a motion. O, see? Yan. You can withdraw a motion. Object to the consideration of a question. Okay? You can also object. If somebody objected, and then it has to be voted upon. But if you have something to raise before the voting, you can actually object to consider the question. Or if it's already decided, or there's already a voting that had happened, and then it seems like you are not satisfied, you can object. Okay? You can object, re-raise such motion, and have another question. No? Raise a point of order if everyone is unruly, or if somebody is attacking you during the meeting. You can raise a point of order. You tell the presiding officer or the president, Mr. President, point of order. The gentleman from Prosperidad is attacking me personally. Okay? That has nothing to do with the motion being filed. It has nothing to do with the issue at hand. Okay, ganon. You have to be very careful of everything that you do, because everything that you do is recorded through a minutes, no? Minutes of the meeting, no? Okay, raise a point of order, raise a point of information, raise parliamentary inquiry, appeal from the decision of the chair. You can appeal from the decision of the chair. Because the chair can actually decide. Okay, the chair can actually decide. The chair is in authority, remember. The chair is in authority, he can decide. But if members are not in conformity with the decision of the chair, you can raise an appeal, or you can raise objection with the decision of the chair. Okay, for reconsideration. Sometimes we call that, in court, you call that motion for reconsideration. Okay, or a move to reconsider the decision. Okay, call for the division of the body, assembly or house, if there is any, like in Congress, no? Okay, because there is an objection, let's divide the house, question, then you have to vote. Then ask for division of the question, request permission to read papers. Or for example, you have facts to discuss, or you have facts to support the motion or the discussion of your motion, you can request, no? You can ask the chair to allow you to open your cell phone to read a certain portion of the law that you are trying to anchor your argument or your discussion of your motion. Ganon. And then motion to reopen or close nominations or polls. As I have said kanina, no, you can actually appeal from the decision of the chair and also object for the consideration of the question. Okay. What is parliamentary law? The rules and precedents governing the proceedings of deliberative assemblies and other organizations. Deliberative meaning there is a very thorough discussion, no? Very thorough, very nagani, thorough pag yun, di ba? So it's a very, very rigorous, no? Or a very taxing discussion on issues, no? Parliamentary rules of procedures in the conduct of a meeting session have 5 requisites, no? Presiding officer, secretary, quorum, order of the business, and rules of procedures. That's the center of our discussion, the rules of procedure. Okay, this one, the rules. Okay, let me be no. Yan, the rules of procedure. Okay? Okay, yan. So, yan. Okay. Next, the presiding officer is a, could be the president or the chairman, president of the Senate, for example, the chairman, or let's say, uh, ano pa bang other term? Wala na siguro, it's president and chairman. Or director, perhaps. Can be. That if in case that the president is not present, then or in the absence of the president and it's already in quorum, then the vice chair or vice president or vice chairman could take the role. And then we have also here, always remember that we have the secretary, but the secretary has no other authority except to preside in the particular meeting. Okay? Rules of order or rules of procedure of a non-legislative body should make a provision for this kind of contingency. Say, for example, in the Senate, no? If perhaps wala ang president, perhaps someone who is next to the president, that maybe the majority of, because I'm not really aware, no? Maybe the majority floor leader could take uh, the uh, the position of the chair, no? Ganon. Or someone in the Senate committee, because meron naman tayong uh, committee chair, committee vice chair sa Senate committee. Ganun na lang. Let's have that as an example, no? The chair of the committee on appropriation is absent, but they are in quorum. So therefore, the vice chair should take the role. But in organizations that is non-legislative, like for example, a company, then there must be, as I have said, it must be included in their constitution or in their IRR. Like what I have said kanina, no, in a certain issue. The presiding officer is the primary duty, or the primary duty of the presiding officer is to see to it that the rules are observed. The presiding officer shall refer to himself only in the third person. In other words, he shall not use the personal pronoun I. Okay. The chair believes that. The presiding officer believes that. No, instead of saying I believe that. Okay. Third person. Hindi siya pwede first person. The chair rules the gentleman out of order. The chair hereby rules or makes a ruling that the statement of the gentleman is out of order. You can observe that as I have mentioned, if you have time, you visit YouTube, and then browse their impeachment trial of Renato Corona. The chair is then Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. He is always not referring that I believe. No, the chair believes that the ruling of the Supreme Court must not be taken into consideration by this court, because the impeachment court is a quasi-judicial and quasi-political court, a class on its own. It's sui generis or sui generis. No? Ganon. Okay, now, duties and responsibilities. That's to call the meeting to order, to recognize properly the member obtaining the floor, the one who is trying to raise a concern or trying to file a motion, to make rulings particularly on points or order parliamentary inquiry, appeals, and requests, to maintain order and proper decorum. So if there is someone who is making chaos, then the chair, as I've mentioned kanina, that can decide to properly tell that person that he is or she is out of order, to take a vote on the pending question and announce the result thereof, to inform the body of each item of business, to clarify issues when needed, and to adjourn the meeting properly and to perform other duties required on him by the rules of the organization. That's very understandable. So let's now proceed with the secretary. Records the proceeding in the form of a journal or minutes. Okay? So as I've said kanina, di ba? I've mentioned the term journal because in Senate they use the term Senate journal. They used to call it Senate journal. They used to call it court journal. No? Um, in the absence of the regular secretary, a temporary secretary may be designated by the presiding officer with the concurrence of the majority of the members present constituting a quorum or elected by a majority of the members. Now, in the case of our organization in PNU, in Philippine Normal University Mindanao, we have two secretaries, the general secretary and the assistant secretary. In case the general secretary is absent, then the assistant secretary takes over because that's in our constitution. It will never be, or it will not violate, no, the rule of succession. So therefore, our organization will not take this lengthy procedure. The presiding officer, no, this lengthy procedure that the presiding officer will have to ask someone, will have to ask the members on his appointee, no, to be the temporary secretary, no, to have a quorum, then a question, then a vote. That's a lengthy procedure. So yon, we already have that in our constitution. So that's it. Now, the temporary secretary shall serve only during that particular meeting or until the arrival of the regular secretary, if the latter would come. So if in the entire proceeding, the general secretary is not there, then the assistant secretary will do his or her job. Now, if in case the general secretary arrives in the middle of the meeting, then the role or the role of the assistant secretary ends because the general secretary must take over. Because she is already present. Ganon. Okay? Ganon yun. Now, a quorum. Minimum number or portion or percentage or members required to be present at a particular meeting. The number of persons of a deliberative body which, when legally assembled in their proper places, will enable the body to transact its proper business. A proportion or percentage like 1/3, 1/5, 1/10, etc. of the entire membership. Okay, but in most of the cases, a quorum must be 50% plus 1. Okay, 50% plus 1. Yun, that's in most of the cases. Now, when the organization did not specify the number of members to constitute a quorum, then the generally accepted parliamentary rule fixing the quorum to by a majority of all members. No? Majority meaning 50 plus 1. That's already majority. Yun yung sabi ko. Kasi if it's specified in your internal rules and procedure that a quorum is only 1/5, then that means okay na. Now, the Rules of Procedure is a document containing a set of procedural rules that govern the orderly transaction of business and defining the duties and responsibilities of the officers during the conduct of meetings. Rules of Procedure distinguished by standing rules, bylaws, and constitution. Okay? So you have to, everything or your internal rules and regulations, these rules and procedures that you are to adopt, that you are to observe must be in accordance with the Constitution. Because if it's not in accordance with the Constitution, it's a violation of your Constitution, then you have to amend. That's the basic rule there. You have to amend. Now, the rules of procedure, standing rules, set of rules relating to the details of the administration of the organization, which are temporary in character, procedural in nature. Scheduling a meeting, imposing of fines for erring members, election and voting procedures, and the like. Okay. Bylaws is a set of rules designed to carry out the provisions of the organization's fundamental principles embodied in its constitution. Because fundamental principles or constitutional provisions are actually general in nature. So yung specific, there are provisions there na specific, but it's already only few. So these provisions, these general provisions requires specific laws, that is bylaws, yan yung bylaws na sinasabi ko, requires this in order for a specification or a detailed discussion of the provision of the Constitution. Okay, rules or policies on membership, officers of the association, committees, mechanics of elections, meetings, quorum, order of business, amendments of bylaws, debates, and the like. Okay, so order of business, ito na yon. Ang sinasabi kong order of business, ito na yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng gagawin ninyo sa inyong meeting. In order to have a smooth, I will always emphasize that the why is parliamentary rules and procedure important? It's because for you to have a smooth sailing meeting, and so that unnecessary issues will not be entertained. Yun. And in order for you to save time. Save time. So ito na yun, no? Order of business is the prescribed sequence of business to be taken up during a meeting or session, which helps as guide for an ordinary and properly conduct of the proceedings. You have call to order, roll call, reading and consideration of previous minutes. Roll call, that is for the attendance. Okay? Reading and consideration of previous minutes. So babasahin pa yung nangyari sa nakaraan. But you can. But there are instances, no? That's incidental. If you could remember kanina, it's an incidental motion that you move not to read the minutes of the meeting. No, you move to proceed to the order of the business, no? Yon. Ayan, reports of the committees, agenda, announcements, optional adjournment. Call to order. When the scheduled time of the meeting has arrived, the presiding officer should take his assigned position in the hall, and while he is in the chair, he may then call the meeting to order. Rule, the presiding officer should make the call to order while he is in standing position and not while he is already seated. Okay? Kasi simula pa yan eh. Tayo ka pa. Dapat hindi ka muna uupo. You have to direct everyone to sit down. Then you sit down if you are the presiding officer. Ganon. Hindi yan upo ka na agad pagdating mo, over na yon. Hindi na yon pwede. That's unruly. That's unparliamentary. We call that unparliamentary. Okay. Call to order. Procedure. The presiding officer holds his gavel and while in standing position, wraps the gavel. No? Once or thrice, whichever is more appropriate. So remember, yung sinabi ko kanina, the number of taps has specific meaning. So you have to mind such meaning. The meeting will please come to order. The chair now calls the meeting to order. The convention of the is now declared open. The convention will please come to order, or any words to this effect, followed by the rapping or tapping of the gavel. Ayan. Ayan. So once, if it's small assembly, but if it's a large assembly, thrice. Because if I have to go back, because if it's a large assembly and you only tap it once, perhaps people at the back cannot hear you, cannot hear the tap. They're still standing, yeah. So you have to tap thrice to call their attention na paupuin na. Notes: invocation or prayer after the call to order. National anthem and prayer. Yan. O, di ba? During meetings, having them is a matter that should be left to the sound judgment or discretion of the members concerned. You can defer. You can actually not have it if you want to save time. Okay, so yan na, roll call, calling the roll of the members in an optional item in order of business, and as such, it may be dispensed with. Procedure, so perhaps in order to save time, it can also be deferred, no? So procedure is, If roll call is to be made by the presiding officer, assigns this task to the secretary by stating, the secretary will please call the roll of the members of the Senate. Then the Senate secretary or the secretary in turns reads aloud the names of members who should answer here or present. If there is an attendance sheet or registration sheet being signed by the members as they come inside the hall, there is no need for the roll call. Yun yung sinasabi kong you have to dispense it with. Because if the secretary will tell that the majority of the members is present, therefore there is a quorum, Mr. Chair. Then, with the presence of the quorum, the chair declares the presence of quorum. O, ganun yun. Yeah, as I have said, pwede na yan, no? Reading and consideration of previous minutes, pwede na yan i-defer. Pwede yan eh, no? So, ganun yung ano natin, yung parliamentary rules and procedure natin, no? So, I was just telling that if you don't want to read it again, what happened in the previous meeting, so much so, you should not read it again, because you might your previous meeting might be 2 hours or 5 hours. You want it to read, because if the secretary is directed to read the minutes of the meeting, then the secretary needs to read in detail what happened. So nako, nakaka-stress yan sa secretary. So you have to be very careful. You have to know, of course, no, especially those who were able to attend, no, were able to attend the event, no, must be very careful on that. Okay. Sige. Reading and consideration of previous minutes. Ganun na yun, no? Ayan, no? Are there corrections to be made on the minutes? If no corrections are offered, he adds, no? That is if the minutes of the meeting were actually considered to be read, no? Read, no? So, if it's read, then, ganun talaga. You have to wait. Then reading, consideration of the previous minutes, procedure, if there are corrections proposed, the presiding officer shall instruct the secretary to note them down and put the proposed corrections to a vote by stating, as many as are in favor of the proposed corrections say A. Those opposed say nay or no, no, yes or A. In the preceding example, corrections in the minutes were offered in the form of a proposal or suggestion. When corrections are offered in the form of a proposal or suggestion, it does not need a second. Okay. Okay, yun na yan. Remember that the chair's statement begins with the phrase, if there is no objection, and thus if nobody would register an objection, it is but logical to assume that everybody is in complete agreement with the ruling. That is what I told you a while ago, that if it's already seconded and then the presiding officer asks if there are any discussion, clarification, questions, objections. If there is none, then the chair would say, hearing none, then the motion filed by Mr. Misanes to adopt the garbage system proposed by Honorable Membrado, ganon, no? Is hereby approved. Ganon. If the ruling made by the chair is not reversed by the body, it becomes the body's decision. Not unless somebody raises an appeal. Kanina, di ba, na bantayan nato na there are appeals. So, incidental motions ang tawag dyan. In parliamentary law, however, there is no such thing as other matters. What is being advocated by parliamentarians is the term new business, which is simply the unwritten agendum or agenda. But this is appropriate only in non-legislative bodies. So if it's legislative body, you use other matters. And because you are a student government, you use other matters sa pagsulat ninyo sa inyong agenda. The business of the day. The time at which the meeting or session is officially closed or terminated, that is adjournment. A meeting is properly adjourned if the presiding officer had duly declared its adjournment. Even if the members had already adopted a motion to adjourn, but there are still some important announcement that necessitates the continuance of the meeting, the chair may defer the adjournment in order to make such announcement. Okay? especially if mga important announcements as regards to the decision made, no, just a reminder, then the chair can actually insert that before adjourning the meeting. It is improper for the chair to state, there being no more business to take up, the meeting is adjourned. No, this is referred to as illegal adjournment because only the body or assembly has the authority to make such decision through a motion that to that effect. There is no more business to take up. If there is no objection from the floor, the chair on its own cognizance will declare the meeting adjourned. The chair hears no objection, the meeting is adjourned. Okay? If there is no objection from the floor, the meeting is adjourned. Hindi yan pwede. Kinahanglan or it needs that someone from the or a member from the body must raise and make that as a motion. Normally, there will be no objection from the floor since there is no more business to take up. Thus, it cannot be said that the chair was the one who adjourned the meeting because nobody objected to the assumed motion, and so the adjournment is considered to be by general consent. In case there is an objection raised by any member, the following would be the scenario. Mr. President or Mr. Presiding Officer or Mr. Chair, I object to the adjournment. There is an objection to the adjournment. The question now is on the assumed motion to adjourn. As many as are in favor that we adjourn, please raise their right hand, or those opposed, please do the same. The affirmative side has the meeting is now declared officially adjourned. Okay, not unless if the negative is the majority. Therefore, the member who filed such motion has it and has to raise another motion to further discuss an issue. Okay, so that ends my discussion. I hope that at some point you've learned something from me because I personally believe that with the use of parliamentary rules and procedure, we will have or we will observe a smooth sailing of discussion on issues or matters to be discussed, no, or businesses to be discussed. Matters, remember, for legislative body, businesses for non-legislative body, especially for company and other organizations, no? So yon, I hope that you have learned, and it's really an honor for me to be here discussing these things. I am no pro to this, but I assume that my understanding and my capacity was able to suffice your needs, no, in managing the meetings for your organization, especially for the student government of Mabog National High School. Thank you very much for the invitation. I have to stop share this one. Yes, I really have to stop share. All right, so thank you very much for this opportunity that you have given me. I am very much honored. Thank you to Sir Levin. And I would like also to thank those student leaders who attended our Hulma training conducted by the Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government with the Office of the Vice President for External Affairs, and of course, with the Division of Bislig City. Thank you so much, and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. That sure up filled more pages, yes? But we are still not done yet. Get another paper to take notes for our fifth and last speaker. She is the chair of the Social and Cultural Welfare Committee of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government, a former Assistant Secretary of Jacinto P. Alpa National High School, a former Secretary of St. Therese College of Tadag, Inc. for 2 consecutive years, a Student Leadership Awardee, and currently taking up Bachelor in Mathematics education. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Miss Claire Ann Prones.
Good day, everyone. I am Clara Pranas, Social Cultural Committee Chairperson of Philippine Normal University Mindanao Student Government. Today, I will discuss about resolution writing. These are the points we will cover over today's session. We will define the resolution and explain its importance in the context of student government, provide practical knowledge in writing a resolution, and write sample resolutions. As student leaders, we take responsibility to express opinion or a desire for change in the student body, and passing a document of resolution is one of the most important and influential means to raise such concerns. Before we delve deeper in our session, let us first know what is a resolution. A resolution is a formal way of stating an intended action by a group of people in an organization. Due to its importance, length, or complexity, it is submitted in writing. We have to take note that a document of resolution should be detailed to get a sense of what committees are likely to be able or want to do a solution to the problem. Also, it should be submitted and written to keep it within the bounds of realistic action or well-defined limits as content guidelines should be observed. It is written statement expressing an opinion about an issue. It is a way to outline a solution for a problem. As resolutions are our opportunity to address problems or concerns, we should provide and support statements or solutions that relates to the areas of concern and is in harmony with the basic policies of the administration. It is tangible product of a committee's deliberation, and these are the results of research, writing, discussion, negotiation, and debate. In resolution writing, a committee statement should include factual and verifiable suggestions regarding the topic at hand. Every member of the committee should strive to produce or provide clear, concise, and relevant resolution of the body. Understanding the better how resolutions are written should take any intimidation out of the process. Besides, you have your SPG or SSG advisor who will duly note the resolutions and will help monitor all programs, projects, activities, meetings of the SPG or SSG at all times after advisor nomination. The SPG or SSG advisor nomination happens when the SPG or SSG nominates at least 2 or 3 teachers, and when the principal endorses or approves through a resolution, then this teacher can be now your SPG or SSG advisor. We should bear in mind that the SPG or SSG president and the treasurer shall be the signatory of all fund disbursements and bank withdrawals of the SPG or SSG. All fund disbursements and bank withdrawals must be accompanied with an SPG or SSG resolution duly noted by the SPG or SSG advisor. All expenses must be supported by the official receipts, and the school head shall be provided copy of all the resolutions relative to the disbursements made. This process promotes good governance and ensures transparency in your leadership. The resolution should be flexible enough to serve its true purpose. Most importantly, make sure that the signatories and the president sign and date the resolution. It is a legal document just like the meeting minutes. Now, what is minutes of the meeting compared to a resolution? The minutes of a meeting is a document which shows the brief history of what happened at the meeting and the decision or decisions that have been made. It is also a general records of points discussed or raised during the meeting. It is mandatory to record its meeting date, time, number of attendees, name of each attendee, name of person who is sharing the meeting, and the brief summary of point of discussion must be included. While a resolution is a document which enacts all those decisions agreed upon during the meeting, it would be more of a decision, a solution to a discussed problem, or the stance of the meeting on the certain issue. It records only the decision on a particular agenda. Now, why should student leaders write a resolution? It can give a position and give recommendations, a way to express an opinion, criticize or put pressure on a specific group, recommend that action be taken, request for something, release of funds, and initiate activities or programs. Let us now proceed to the 5 main parts of the student government resolution, which are the heading, preamble, operative clauses, resolve statement, and signatories. Let us first discuss what is a heading. A heading is the information where it indicates the name of the organization and its logo, excerpt minute statement, attendance report, resolution number, and series year and the general statement of the resolution. Here's a sample heading in the minute of a meeting. Office of the Supreme Student Government, excerpt from the minutes of the meeting last June 6, 2018, 2 p.m. at BNHS SG office. And a sample heading of a resolution. For additional information, the heading serves as identification for each resolution and informs three things: who is proposing the resolution, to which committee the resolution is being directed, and what is the topic of the resolution. Next, we have the preamble, which describes why a resolution is important. It has legal basis, the laws, memorandum, the school improvement plans, among others, and rationale of the resolution. Here a sample of preamble of a resolution. Whereas stipulated in the approved program of governance of the student government, school year 2018 to 2019, and the approved activity design dated June 25, 2018, state the student government will spearhead and participate in the various activities in the school. As what you can observe in the example, the preamble, therefore, serves to define the purpose of the resolution. Since there are reasons and reasoning is subjective, opinions can appear here. The whereas clauses should explain the rationale for the resolution, identify a problem or need for action, address its timeliness or urgency, and its effect or effects to the students. The operative clauses describes what action should be taken, which are the reasonable solutions that can enforce, and end with a semicolon and last with a period. This is the sample of operative clauses. It tells what action that committee should take. Language and tone play is an important part here in framing clauses similar to the preamble. The operative clauses should be detailed and well thought out and may have numerous subpoints. Since a resolution is asking for a change, the operative clauses must explain what those changes ought be and how they come about. Next, we have resolved statement. It is a clear statement of agreement. It may start with a statement, now, therefore be it resolved, as it is hereby resolved, copy the title, be approved. Here is a sample of a resolved statement. The resolved statements are the only parts of the resolution that must contain an actionable request and make sense when read alone, since the resolved clause represents the policy that will be adopted. Thus, resolved clauses should be a single sentence in length. Lastly, we have the signatories. The signatories are designated officers or committee members in an organization who are authorized to process and approve official documents. It includes in their responsibility to review, approve, and process the purpose of the document of resolution. Since we are done with the main parts of a resolution, let me give you tips in writing a resolution. First, identify your issues or concerns. Make it simple. Practice due diligence in researching issues and concerns. In this, try to cite facts whenever possible and be realistic in the recommended solutions of the problem. Do not create objectives in the solution that cannot be met, and make sure that the body can take action suggested. The whereases should support the resolved statements and make sure the information clearly supports the statements and statistics used to support the resolved statements. Therefore, the structure of this would be whereas, insert the text of the first preamble clause, next statement, whereas, insert the text of the next to the last preamble clause, followed by whereas, insert the text of the last preamble of the last preamble clause, now therefore, be it. For the resolved statements, the structure would be resolve that, insert stating action to be taken, resolve that, insert stating further action to be taken, and resolve that, insert stating the last action to be taken. I have mentioned this earlier and I want you to remember that the whereases is the first half of the resolution. It explains why the action in the resolved clauses should be taken. It states the past action, reasons for the action, and the reasons for concern. The first word of the whereases clause sets the tone for the statement. The stronger the conviction about an issue, the stronger the first word. According to the Article 18 Finance Section 2, a monthly report on the receipts and/or collections made duly signed by the Treasurer and the President and noted by the SPG or SSG advisor shall be posted on the SPG or SSG bulletin board and be submitted in the school head. Section 7 states, all disbursements and bank withdrawals shall be made in accordance with the programs, projects, and activities of the SPG or SSG embodied in the yearly action plan endorsed by the SPG or SSG advisor and duly approved by the school head. And the Section 8 states that the SPG or SSG President and the Treasurer shall be the signatory of all fund disbursements and bank withdrawals of the SPG or SSG. All fund disbursements and bank withdrawals must be accompanied with an SSG or SPG resolution duly noted by the SPG or SSG advisor. The school head shall be provided a copy of all the resolutions relative to the disbursements made. These transparencies gives the student body the right to information. Be aware that the excessive secrecy can undermine the quality of good governance. Right now, let me provide the do's and don'ts in writing a resolution. Do's. Write the correct heading. Be particular with all the details. Use different sources to support your point. Look at the problem from different points of view. Present realistic solutions in your resolution. For the don'ts, we have the use of inappropriate abbreviations. Don't use I when referring to yourself. Say we or the department of blank. And don't make a resolution very long, but be specific when giving solutions. Now here are the examples of resolution subjects in writing. Release of 10,000 funds, support zero plastic implementation, change of signatories in the bank account, appointment of committees for foundation anniversary, present solution for waste segregation, nomination of SG advisor, and recognize honest students. Congratulations! You are now ready to write a resolution. It's been an honor to be among such accomplished individuals and be able to present my perspective before you all. Thank you for listening and have a good day.
Thank you, Miss Claire. It filled not only our papers with notes, but our minds as well with more knowledge. Surely our student leaders here with us are more equipped and ready for another job for the service of their student body. At this point of time, as much as we all wanted for more, it is time that we part ways. But of course, I know there will be more like this, as we acknowledge our student leaders' initiative and enthusiasm for learning. So now may I call on Mr. Ejever Bonghanoy, BKD President of Mabog National High School, for the acknowledgement.
In behalf of the Supreme Student Government of Mabog National High School, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our Almighty Father for His constant guidance, grace, divine protection, and great love, and for giving us this opportunity to conduct this webinar. I would also like to extend our sincere thanks to our school head, Sir Noel L. Milian, for his constant support to our organization. To our resource speakers, who wholeheartedly shared their invaluable time and unparalleled knowledge to us student leaders. To the student government of Philippine Normal University, Mindanao, for being our partner in this endeavor. To the teachers who are always there to impart their unwavering support to all our cause. To the parents who nurtured and employed their invariant guidance to their children. To the students and aspiring leaders who took the challenge and played a significant role in making this event a momentous one. Lastly, I would like to express our humble and sincere thanks to all those who have shared their efforts, time, and treasure just to make this first leadership webinar a great success. Once again, thank you and God bless us all.
Thank you, Mr. Bonghanoy. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude for Sir Levin for this opportunity and the student government of Mabog National High School for the initiative. May you all continue to educate the youth and yourselves as we are to become the hope of our land. So now, we have Miss Dorothy Montalvo, SSG Auditor of Mabog National High School for the closing prayer.
Gracious Father, we have to come to end this webinar, and we want to thank you. Thank you for the excellent service that we have had today. Father, may we practice what we have been learned and heard from the webinar, just like how to be a proactive and optimistic person as well as a leader. Father, may we walk according to the word that has been preached to us today, so that we can be light to the world. Let everything we have learned bear fruit in our lives, so that your light can shine upon men, and they may glorify your name. All these we ask and pray in Jesus' name we believe.